Stay down. Final warning.
I could do this all day.
Hey guys, welcome back for our spoiler-filled, lots of spoilers in this discussion of Captain America Civil War, Marvel's latest awesome entry. So again, we are having full spoiler warnings, and I'm joined by Tyler Hall and our guest Scott Fox. Thank you for joining us. And again, spoilers, 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 so you can't be mad when I say Bucky killed Tony's dad.
So that first scene with Iron Man when they're showing Tony Stark on his parents' couch.
I was tripping out, bro.
Dude. Weird science.
That's what
I
a lot
wrote
of
in
people...
my notes really big. Weird science. So you can't see it. But it looked just like him. I don't know if you've seen Weird Science. But he's one. I believe he's a bully, one of the two bullies or whatever.
He's one of the guys who drops the slushy on top of him from the second floor. And I remember watching the scene. I'm like, oh man, that is a young Robert Downey Jr. Like the CGI to make him look that young was pretty creepy looking. And when you said Weird Science, I'm like, I had a flashback. Like, oh my gosh, that was like they like ripped his face off of that movie and plastered it on his body in this.
Or Chaplin or something.
Oh no, even younger.
No.
This is teenage, like 19, 20-year-old Tony Stark. It was creepy.
It's weird.
Put the same
weird
50-year-old man voice. Like crazy.
Well, I just recently rewatched Ant-Man finally for the second time because that's literally the only Marvel movie I think I haven't seen twice in theaters, or at least twice. And what they did with Michael Douglas was very impressive. They kind of did something similar here. And often, like, it's weird, their de-aging works very well. But then when they aged Peggy Carter in Winter Soldier, I was like, this is weird.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't work. But the younger ones work for me. I was like, Robert Downey Jr. I was like, oh, it's a younger Robert Downey Jr.
Which is funny because you can do makeup for aging someone.
They should have done makeup.
And you've always been able to do that. But, like, the making people look younger in CGI... I remember when they did it in
Tron.
Well, they did it in Click, and they made Henry Winkler look younger, and I was like, "Oh, how'd they do that?" You know, I don't know necessarily that it was CGI, but it was, you know, the first time I'd seen somebody made to look clearly much younger than they were.
Well, it's kind of like in the first Captain America when they make
same
Steve
technology
tiny, and they make him look like this frail, weak, gaunt little boy. The whole usage of making him look little was of Tony looking that young. It was crazy, and they did a really good job. I mean, it didn't look bad. It looked good.
When
we
say creepy, it's because we're not used to seeing him looking like that. It looked authentic.
Robert Downey Jr. is old.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's under any delusion that he is not aged. He's aged well, but he's aged. I mean, he's in his 50s now.
Yeah.
And
facial hair distracts.
Yeah, to see a 20-year-old Robert Downey Jr. in a movie having that weird angsty type feel that a 20-year-old has with his parents, it was kind of strange.
Yeah.
It worked though. It was good.
Is there anything else you guys want to say about that particular scene? Because I was going to take it back a couple. Like right where the car crash opening scene with Winter Soldier.
Oh, absolutely.
No, go for it.
And I like that this movie, Winter Soldier had a much more subtle reference to Winter Soldier's experience with the Russians. Like, other than he has the Russian star on his arm. He spoke one line of Russian in Winter Soldier. But this one, they focused in a lot more that, the Germans grabbed him and he was an agent of Hydra. But the Russians were the ones that, like, trained him and put him through everything. Because, obviously... Hydra doesn't have to be German. Hydra can be anything. We've seen that in Winter Soldier. Hydra's everywhere, for sure. Yeah. So there's a Russian branch of Hydra, and then they have the code words. And did you guys have any suspicions when they showed him take out that car, or were you just like, oh, he just grabbed something from the trunk of that car?
No, as soon as you opened it up, I knew it was super serum of something. Yeah. Or I had a feeling it was something like super serum in there. It was blue. Kind of gave some of the telltale signs, but you don't know who's in the car.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking.
You're like, okay, he's stealing this box in the trunk.
You thought it wasn't important.
Yeah.
As far as who's in there, yeah.
It didn't matter. The car crashed. He's grabbing the stuff and he's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly how it ended up playing out once you get the full footage of it.
Yeah.
And how he manages to finish that off is incredible. But I had an inkling that that's what the stuff was.
Sure.
But it just...
it made the most sense.
Exactly. Why else would he go hunt down one person individually, steal or crash their car and steal something out of the trunk? Unless it was they're not going to use a super soldier to go steal some NyQuil. That was some top level stuff. So,
of course. And then so it went from there, and I think was it pretty sure? No, then it goes. I think the Captain America scene in was that Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Lagos?
Legos.
Yeah.
Lagos? Okay. I think that was the next scene. And there's so many... because of the airport scene, I almost feel bad for this movie. Because there's like 4 or 5 really amazing action sequences in this movie that are completely swept under the radar because of the airport scene. But that...
Black Widow.
Holy
fight
crap!
sequence.
Yeah.
When she takes those 2 dudes down.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Very
impressive.
I've never. I mean, she's always kicked ass, but she kicks some serious.
They've been
ass.
progressing her ass kicking. Like
Yeah.
in Avengers, she's all right. In Winter Soldier, I was like, oh, cool, she can fight. She's and she was taking on Winter Soldier, some of the people on the boat. I was like, oh, cool. And then she did okay in Avengers: Age of Ultron. This one, hell, that's some of the most kick-assing I've seen from
Anybody.
a female in like any movie.
Not even just a female, just like
Well,
anybody.
I'm just saying, I'm happy to see
some serious
good
believable ass kicking.
female fight choreography because
Yeah.
Yeah.
The choreography, I was going to say, the way they
Just
fought in
punch 'em.
between. Well, and then the rolls, how she was flipping people, putting them into locks, rolling them around the ground, then right up to the next person to hit them, twist their arm, throw the leg around their neck, throw them down, and then right back up to the next person.
it was like Arkham Knight video game play.
Well, but-
Exactly.
but-
she was
but,
just
like,
hitting
she's-
triangle to counter, and then square a whole bunch, and then triangle to counter. It was pretty fast.
She's an Avenger though, so I really like that they
So
really
it's about damn
showed
time.
just like what for what reason,
Clearly, she's highly trained.
Yeah. Clearly.
Almost felt like in this, she was so fast and did such a good job. Like she had even though she's not enhanced, it felt like she was enhanced, and it may be just the training. And she's been put through the test, and not that she doesn't have training. She has training as an assassin, though,
Right.
not necessarily as a. Or I guess it hasn't really come out that she's that skilled, or not that she's not that skilled. She's not that fast. This one, she felt faster in as well.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing about Daredevil is like he's enhanced because he's blind, but he's just a hand-to-hand combat dude.
I do want to say that in the comics, briefly, Black Widow is actually enhanced. And they said Winter Soldier, she's born like 1981, I think. But in the comics, she's much, much older, and she has like a not as efficient version of like the Super Soldier Serum injected in her, so she ages. But they're obviously not following that in the movies.
Maybe it'll come to be. She's been a huge part of the Captain America trilogy.
True, but I'm just saying
So-
she's not from like the 50s or whatever. It said she was born in 1981.
Right.
That puts her at 35 years old, which,
But
from what I know about myself, that's like the
83?
perfect age.
yeah.
I think it was 80 something. Maybe it was 85. It was 80 something. I just remember Zola said like Natasha Romanoff, born in da 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 da.
Gotcha.
There are a lot of things that could come together with that, though, as well.
It could be revealed. She was in some
Yeah.
pretty covert stuff, and she doesn't reveal anything about her history.
Hydra's been going on the whole time. Like he's a sleeper agent. So,
We talked about it earlier about the whole government thing with Steve Rogers
Right.
and his distrust. The fact that every bit of government ends up finding out that Hydra or somebody bad is the Shield turns out to have some Hydra people up at the top of them. About that, the fact that they could be anywhere, they could have been working. They're in Siberia, in Russia. They're in Germany. They're in America.
well, what's been
everywhere.
happening in real life for like several years? It's like I learned in school, like these people that like completely trusted their government, will learn that all these covert operations and that was going on and this was going on and that they couldn't release these classified document files. All this stuff was going on, and then, so and this is every country,
Uh-huh.
So it's really cool to like kind of see that.
Spy stuff and espionage is real.
Yeah.
I had a huge light bulb, guys. So where was Natasha trained? Russia?
Russia.
It's KGB. Where is Winter Soldier brainwashed and trained
Siberia.
and sent out from, is that Russia? In Russia?
Siberia it's part of Russia. It's a big cold part to the right.
So, I don't know if she was just referencing Winter Soldier, but when Bucky had her in the chokehold, she's like, "You could at least recognize me." I'm thinking they might have a little more history than she alluded to in Winter Soldier, where she's like, "Oh, he shot me this one time." I'm like, have you seen him more than once? Maybe.
I was thinking that too. It was like, you can at least recognize me. That was crazy.
And when that was happening, I was immediately thinking back to the other movies going, okay, where would he have seen her?
I was thinking that too.
At what point would they have had a conversation? Would he know internally that she's with Cap?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Light bulb.
Yeah, I literally, while we were talking about Russia, I literally just had like a fat light bulb in my head, and it's like, did I just catch on to something?
Yeah, like you said, she's enhanced a little bit,
and they're together in the comics.
And then, like we've all noticed, and I think everyone's noticed, she kicked a lot more ass in this. Mm-hmm. So,
absolutely.
And we'll cover this in our podcast, but Marvel wants to do a Black Widow solo movie. It's always been brought up, but now we really want to do it. So we'll talk about that more, but.
We're clearly not the first people to figure this out.
I like to feel smart.
Anyway.
The Black Widow was awesome.
Yeah.
In those fight sequences. One of the cool things about that, though, is that whole fight sequence that we started that whole trend on. How that breaks down to when... I can't remember the guy's name, but he was from...
Crossbones.
Frank
Grillo?
Yes. The fact that he's the guy that Cap dropped the building on... his mechanisms to fight were freaking awesome. Yeah.
Rock'em sock'em, punch Cap in the face.
Yeah, exactly. Until Cap rips it off his arm. But when he detonates the bomb on himself and Scarlet Witch closes the explosion inside and he's just basically burning himself up with the explosion, I was like, oh, shit. But then... Unfortunately, she throws him into a building. Any place she could have thrown him to blow up by himself. They're just even straight up.
Well, I think they're surrounded by buildings. And they're on the ground floor where there's just a cluster of people everywhere. So she wasn't aiming it. She just goes, "He's here. Go away." Right. And like going up is building. So it wasn't really her fault. And then I loved, not expected. I thought one of the worst ideas you could have is introducing Falcon in Winter Soldier. After Winter Soldier, I was like, I love this guy. Anthony Mackie's great. Falcon's awesome. He's even better in this movie. Just, they've made his wings do so much more than just fly.
Not to mention his little back and forth with Bucky.
His back and forth with Bucky. They great chemistry. They introduced Red Wing. His
little sidekick.
It was an actual hawk in the comics, but nobody wants to see that.
I'm not going to thank that thing.
Go on, pet it. It's cute. Why'd you give it a name? And I love the character dynamic of what would be, I guess, the new Avengers, they were calling themselves, with Cap and Falcon and Black Widow. Because she's Scarlett Johansson, I keep trying to call her Scarlet Witch, but, Black Widow. And Scarlet Witch was in there, too. It's just a great, you have... What?
I'm laughing about the Scarlet Witch thing.
Yeah, you have Captain America and Black Widow are like ground level heroes, and then you have Scarlet Witch, which is your powerhouse, your Hulk level character that's just like overpowered as hell.
That's crazy to call Captain America a ground level hero, though. When you watch like
he's an advanced ground level.
But when you watch like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, those are ground level vigilantes. Sure.
I'm just saying, like, as far as like where they go, you have two, I would say, martial artists. One's a really freaking strong martial artist, and then you have Scarlet Witch, does a lot of distance.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying is like, to think that like this superhero, this god or whatever, and then you got Scarlet Witch that just makes him look like a casual American.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And they did so many cool things with Scarlet Witch's powers in this. Like, he's like we practiced, toss me up there. So what about the gas? Get it out. Just like pulling all the gas out of the building. It was so cool.
The limitations of her powers seem to really have no end. It's
as she figures it out.
Yeah, and in this movie, she's really starting to figure them out because she hasn't had much experience in Age of Ultron. She didn't really know what she could do with her powers, and she was also holding back, afraid of doing too much. Mm-hmm. In this one, she had a pretty good feel of it, and I tell you what, not to skip too far forward, but when she takes Vision and pile drives him through the floor. I was like, okay, so apparently she's way stronger with that crap than I'd given her credit for. It's very powerful.
When we get to that scene, I want to talk about it because I think I viewed it differently than some other people as far as physically what was really happening with that. I think it has to do with Vision's powers. But what happened? So we saw him kill. They killed Crossbones, and there's the big explosion. And I think that's when we go to the Robert Downey Jr. scene, the young Robert Downey Jr. scene, right?
Correct.
Right.
And then they followed very similarly to what happened in the comics after that scene when he bumps into that lady whose son died by the elevator. In the comics, it was a mutant that blew up and like leveled an elementary school and like this big like mile radius of things, and that's when the Registration Act came into place. But there was a like mom sitting in the crowd. She like spit on Tony Stark, and it's like, you murdered my son and blah 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 blah. And that was like, so that theme was very much still there, and I was happy to say. At first, I didn't know what the hell was going on or who that was. I recognized the actress from somewhere.
The actress, she's been in a lot of stuff. Going blank on her name, but she's an incredibly recognizable face. She's a good character actor. Been in a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm. And right away, right then, I was like, this movie's gonna be hard on me because I'm already understanding Tony.
Yeah, well, and she that character really put the emotional hurt on Tony right away.
Yes,
and put a face to the carnage that's been happening. You know, it wasn't just like, hey, people have died. It's no, this kid died. And she gives him the picture.
And he did this, and this, and this. And he was doing housing for the people in Sokovia and like the slums.
For a Captain America movie, you see a lot of emotion in Tony Stark.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like a lot. I would feel like most of the emotional feel that you get from the film is on Tony's side.
This is the best, like talking about characters. And it's, you know, some people are going to be like, how can you say that? But this is the best Robert Downey Jr.'s been as Tony. I think this is the most emotion, the most depth, the most pain, the most anger, the most frustration. Like, I saw every spectrum on Tony Stark.
Even when you put in Iron Man 3, when he's going through his whole PTSD thing after the Avengers, you really don't. I mean, it doesn't live up to this.
No.
But in this one, you also got, it's on every level of his life.
Right.
He's got it happening with Pepper.
Yeah.
He's emotionally torn up at home. He's torn up at work.
Right.
He's killed people. His friends are standing against him. He does need a hug. Bad. But then he's Tony Stark. Doesn't want hugs. But he's literally on full assault emotionally everywhere he goes in his life. It's like, you know, if you're having a bad day at work, well, home can be good. If you're having a bad day at home, I can at least go to work and just get my stuff done.
You know,
he can't go anywhere without feeling the emotional toll of his actions.
He's got an empty the beachside like house or whatever. He's got an empty tower because the Avengers are separated. Like, he has no. He's got Rhodey, but like he doesn't have real friends and family.
No, it's the group. And Cap's one of his best friends.
And then you could see that too in a lot of like when he has to like fake his Tony Stark persona like right after dealing with like some sort of like emotional handle. And then he's, you know, he'll like, I'm forgetting like specific examples, but like, you know what I'm saying though, right? Yeah. I'm not going to try to drag on thinking of something.
And then, so after that, I think is when General Ross comes into the picture.
Yes.
Which is really cool to see Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, so Everett Ross, Martin Freeman's character, is that his son? And is that maybe going to be the prelude to that you mentioned earlier, the Red Hole type thing? Obviously not in this movie. But
no, I was thinking that, and the thing is,
they're both Ross, so
right. I've seen, you know, I know a bit about General Ross. Everett Ross is a kind of new character to me. I was reading something about in the comics, he's like a liaison for Wakanda a lot of the times.
Okay.
So he does a lot of work in Wakanda, but like everything I read about Everett Ross had nothing to do with General Ross.
Weird.
They just happen to have the same.
I think that's the case, but understandable.
Which happens in real life, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it was one of those things of like, okay, because obviously General Ross is quite advanced in age, substantially versus Martin Freeman.
But that would make Martin Freeman Liv Tyler's brother.
That would.
Which I'm not saying no, but I don't know.
But you know, Marvel will plant these seeds now, and a couple movies down the road. Like if they ever do get to the World War Hulk movie or whatever Hulk movie they had originally talked about, and on and off. And
Martin Freeman as Red Hulk.
like, could you imagine? Yeah. You'd have to break out the British accent for that, though. There'd be no way.
I'm going on an adventure.
But yeah, Martin Freeman. Sorry, I was jumping on the Ross thing, but that's where Ross came in, and we were talking about the kid. That kid that the lady gave the picture to Tony became the rally cry face to the movement for the Sokovia Accords. That kid became the poster child.
Yeah.
For okay, we need reform. We all got to get on board. This is what we did, and it's not just anybody. This is a person. And any big movement that's ever happened has their poster child.
Yes.
The person they hang their thing on. That kid in that moment downstairs, getting on the elevator at MIT. That kid that got introduced became the movement piece that they were able to set that to. Which is also that's something that happens in day-to-day life all the time. Every great movement or cause has been they find somewhere to put out there so you can put a face to it, and that's Tony's thing is he's got the face put to it, and why he's so torn.
I was emotionally ripped right away because I saw where things were going. Like I was like I on one hand fully side with Tony. I'm like, yeah, but then I look at Cap, I was like, government sucks, man. SHIELD was Hydra, like your whole life's work, nothing.
Hydra's been literally behind everything. And every bit of government that everyone's supposed to trust, which is why this movie's so great. Because it's really the pro-government, anti-government movement, and which side you're really on. And Cap said it really, really well when he said, when it comes down to making the decision, the best hands are still our own, right? To make the choice and do something, the decision has to come from ourselves. We got to do what we know is right.
What if there's a place that we want to go to that we can't? What if there's a place they tell us to go that we shouldn't?
Yeah.
And what a perfect argument, and so like simple and come to mind on the surface, and then for him to totally oppose it, Iron Man, just be like, look, there's got to be some sort of like diplomacy with it.
Well, yeah, there's
crazy.
It's politics. You got to be able to play the game a little bit because, like he said, it's either we do this or it's going to be done to us. So either we get on board with it, or they're going to do it, and we're all going to end up in jail.
And I think on one hand, it's not fair because Cap's a lot more innocent than Iron Man is because Avengers 1 was SHIELD's fault. Avengers 2 was Iron Man's fault. The destruction in Washington, D.C., he was saving us from Hydra that was not his fault at all.
No, Hydra was... Those machines were going up to kill all kinds of people.
Millions.
Right. Yes.
Not a couple buildings. Millions of people.
Yeah. The Cap is right. Again, we're picking sides. Cap is right. I mean, the fact is, sometimes bad people get into power and will tell you to do bad things.
Yep.
And unless you have the speech given by Peggy's niece, Sharon, that at some point you have to stand for something, even when you know it's wrong.
Compromise when you have to. When you can't, don't. You tell them to move. Which is almost word for word what Cap says in the Spider-Man graphic novel for the Civil War comics. They literally took that script out, but instead of Cap saying it, they had Cap hear it.
Yeah. Well, and he did. He planted his feet in the ground in the sand.
That speech.
Cap planted his feet in the ground and said, "This is what I believe," and he stood by it. If you have a conviction about something and you're unwavering, you don't waver.
For sure.
And that was the whole back and forth between he and Iron Man, was Iron Man's trying to be like, hey, we've got to work with these people, and Cap's like, I can't work for these people.
Yes.
I'll work with you. I can't work for them.
Yes.
Right.
But he's been jaded. How many movies have been built on the fact that he was lied to and manipulated and made to do things that he found out later were wrong?
He remembers when when the World Council sent a nuke to New York when Nick Fury had to try to stop it.
Yeah. Right. Well, and Iron Man ended up flying it into outer space.
Yeah.
I mean,
ended up working out for him, but they were going to blow up New York.
Yes. I mean, the thought process, Cap's distrust of government is not
unfounded.
No. He's got plenty of reason not to want to trust anything that any of them have to say. He trusts there's certain types of personalities and type A personalities.
He trusts people at arm's reach.
Well, they trust a very small group of close friends that he knows intimately.
Yes.
And he only trusts them.
And how crazy for somebody that grew up in the 40s as a loyal soldier too.
Oh yeah.
And then for him to be the one that is personally seeing all the corruption, especially in the Winter Soldier and stuff like that. So I really think that somebody with like the level of experience that Captain America has, you would think to kind of like listen to what he has to say a little more.
Yeah.
He had a great line in one of the other movies where he said, every time somebody's tried to stop a war before it happened,
innocent people die.
Exactly.
Every
That's
time.
in Winter Soldier, I believe.
In Age of Ultron, it's him and Tony arguing when he rips the wood apart.
But how right is he?
Very.
And again, but the whole seed for this movie began back in those movies with he and Tony kind of being on a different perspective for those things, and it really comes to a head in this movie. And they're the up and down of their friendship, it just gut wrenching through the movie.
And
I think a lot of like Iron Man's argument is more that he's stubborn and he's emotionally driven with it.
Right. And
But that's not to say that like I don't understand politically where he's coming from. Like I get like the whole diplomacy. We want order. We want all that stuff. So to sit down and try to hash out like, but he's like, forgive me if I'm wrong, but he's trying to get them to like sign it in the first place, and then they could go into negotiations, right?
Yeah, they're trying to sign. Like it could be he makes comment. It could be amended afterwards.
Right.
It's like you don't sign until it's in the paperwork, because once you sign, you are bound by that document.
Yeah, it's like when you're going into contract agreements, you're going to
better
want
be
to
in the
get
paper
the best
before you
terms that
sign.
you can, and then you don't want to bank on amendments because that's not
one of my favorite things that Cap says, and I can't remember the line exactly, but he says something like, "Yes, but these are still ran by people, and people have agendas." And I was like,
agendas for sure.
Absolutely.
And
everyone's trying to get something.
Cap needed this shift. Like, I don't think we would be as much of a fan of Captain America if he remained the red, white, and blue Boy Scout that he has, because he had this transition in the comics too, and Superman did as well. Like, eventually they had to like denounce their citizenship pretty much, and they're like, I'm American, and I'm for the America that I was born to believe in.
I was going to say the exact same thing. They're a hardcore American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
40s and 50s American.
Yeah.
Right.
What they've happened to have happened to them is they grew up in an age where that's a little blurred line. People with agendas and things have altered it to a state where
you come to find out that even the America that they led you to believe in didn't even exist then.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So
I think Cap has the best lines literally in every movie, because I'm going back to the first Avengers. He's like, when I woke up, they told me what we won. They never said what we lost. And I was like, Cap, dude.
No, he's great.
Let's get back to the
yes,
chronology.
absolutely.
Sorry.
Get to the movie. I was going to say, I didn't realize, but it's a compliment to the movie, is you can debate sides of this movie for hours.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not black and white at all. It's Cap's movie, but it's not just like...
Yeah, just to add, like, real quick, it's a lot like the whole thing with the X-Men. You know, this whole thing is perfectly politics.
Yeah.
You know, it's and it does a great job.
Oh,
of
I
doing
understand
it.
mutant
Absolutely.
registration and things like that with those movies. Absolutely.
How crazy is it though that it's just like that they were able to adapt a story so well to like try to get a point across with something.
So after the team meets up for the first time, they're discussing signing, and Cap's like, I can't do this. Do you guys remember what happens next? Because I'm drawing a small
Can't
blank.
do this. Then he goes to the
He goes to Peggy's funeral, and after that,
right.
it's when he doesn't go to the Sokovia Accords. The Sokovia Accords happen. That's where you see T'Chaka and T'Challa both show up as he's giving his speech in the introduction of Black Panther.
Interesting.
Or at least the man who's going to be.
Interesting way to incorporate the death of T'Chaka, because that is integral to who T'Challa is and becoming Black Panther. In the comics and the cartoons, things I've watched, it was always a little more personal, being that it happened on Wakanda soil.
Yeah.
But I understand for keeping the cinematic universe running together why they chose to do that. But
He still used the line, I am the protector of Wakanda, and
Yes.
now I am their king.
yes.
because of your friend.
Yeah.
I now bear the title of king or something.
The second Chadwick Boseman opened his mouth, I was like, this is Black Panther.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He did an excellent job. How great, though, that they set it up, you know, they kill his father, and that quickly, and they set it up that quickly, and you're like, you don't feel like it was rushed.
No.
You feel like, wow, like I totally get it. I totally get where he's coming from, and I understand this, and now I understand the origin of Black Panther. And I'm thinking, like, as I watched that, I was thinking they could have made an entire movie out of that, which they've done before.
Yeah.
Right. But out of that, like, scene, it's crazy how good they're getting at, like, getting the point across without rushing it.
Yeah.
This film does a phenomenal job of that.
Absolutely.
In every aspect.
And just when, I hope I'm not cutting very far ahead, but when they're sitting down at the bench and it's Black Widow and T'Challa.
And he says he says the line, your friend better find him first because I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, well,
or something along those lines. But
he says something
he's going
way
to kill
better
him.
before that, though.
Yeah.
He says something like, in my culture, death is not an absolute, or something like that.
That's what my father believed.
But that's what my father believed, and I'm like, yeah,
and I'm not my father.
I mean business. It's
and
awesome.
She's like, don't worry, we'll find the man that killed your father. He's like, don't worry, I'll kill him myself. I was like, Black Panthers.
So the only thing you're skipping is that Lex Luthor blew up the building.
Oh, right. Yeah. with Grandma's peach tea. Terrible.
That's not that far skipping ahead.
Okay.
So,
because I didn't remember
the building
anything else important happened other than T'Chaka dying and the building blowing up. Of course, innocent, important. Well, I said innocent and politicians in the same sentence, but you know what I meant.
But right post that scene
diplomats,
is when you have
innocent diplomats.
That is where the first chase scene for Bucky comes in. Is immediately following that, and
where Cap tries to get to him first.
Cap tries to get to. He gets the lead from Sharon, and then he gets that, and then immediately goes to the apartment to try and find Bucky. And like all good superheroes, they all had their suits ready available because everyone comes. Cap's got his suit, Falcon's got his suit, Black Panther shows up, and that first introduction to who Black Panther is when they're running through the tunnel. Are you kidding? Or actually, no, on the roof.
Yes.
Yeah, on the roof.
When you see the shadow, did
Yeah.
you catch that? It's like you see Winter Soldier running, and all of a sudden you see a shadow, knees to the back, and flips over him.
Oh, he's impressive.
Yeah.
Like, well, all of them. I guess then the question is exactly how enhanced is Black Panther? Because he's got to have something. Because the other guy's got
He's not
super
normal.
serum,
Yeah.
and his speed is equal to
Right.
both of them.
It's not just vibranium.
No, he's not just got a vibranium suit.
Yeah.
He is enhanced.
No,
With-
yeah, for sure.
Comic knowledge, it's something herbal. It's like they're
We're going to Wakanda.
Wakanda is their whole like the way their city works. It's like 50% spiritual, 50% technology,
Right.
and so Black Panther's the culmination of the two.
How they're gonna put that in? It's got to be some sort of serum in this, though.
Yeah. Well,
If they're gonna explain
it could be
in
an herbal
this
serum.
universe, right?
And he even says his resources are quite vast as well. And you see that at the very end of the movie. You see exactly how advanced his resources are.
Yes.
They clearly have the tech to go behind, and the fact that his suit, and I don't know if it'll be alluded to this, but it's made from the vibranium. But his claws are actually it's vibranium mixed with something else. That's why he's able to rip through Bucky's arm. He's able to rip through the shield, or at least leave claw marks in
Right.
it. It's because he's not got just basic vibranium claws or anything.
Right.
His suit is pretty impressive.
I thought of one thing they didn't put in this movie that I've always loved from the animated is his throwing knives, which are vibranium, which will mess people up.
Oh, yeah.
He's basically vibranium Batman, simplified, and also like king of a country.
Dude, this guy's cooler than Batman.
He's so
I'm
dope.
just saying.
He doesn't wear a cape though.
He can
Batman's got like a
actually
like
as a king
nice
he does
suit.
wear a cape.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think that if he were to go, he literally can do everything Batman can do. Black Panther's also a detective.
Yep.
He's also a scientist. He's extreme martial artist. So he's an awesome character.
That first introduction to him with the chase scene well, let's go back to that. Bucky and Cap fighting in the stairwell trying to get out, and Bucky's just trying to get out. He doesn't care if he kills anybody or anything. He's just trying to get out.
Yeah.
And Cap is trying to help him stay alive while also saving the guys that Bucky is just trying to get out.
Right.
Like he's catching people flying over the banisters, like trying to keep people from dying.
Come on.
And Bucky's just like, get out of my way! He's like, you're killing me, man. Like I can't save you and all the people you're killing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Bucky's just like, I gotta get out.
Yeah.
He also stops a bullet with a mattress, but
I didn't like the fact that suddenly everyone only shot his bicep.
Ting ting.
This was stopping every bullet. He's got a lot of side left,
yeah.
Yeah.
and not suddenly he is impenetrable because his arm is as big as Cap's shield.
I mean, if he could spin it like a helicopter, it'd be like ding, 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 but
He probably got shot a few times, but it wouldn't affect him as heavily as it would just the normal. person.
That's true.
Right.
However, they made a big emphasis on the fact that he was catching them all on his arm.
Yeah.
And it was like that again. It's something stupid, and only a real nerd would stare at that and be like,
When-
I don't know, man. Like if you got a bunch of people shooting you and you're like this, you're gonna get.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Cap when he blocks all the bullets. Some of those would deflect down to your legs,
Right.
possibly. But either way, again, not everything in comic book movies.
That
obeys
thing
laws
doesn't
of
obey the
physics.
law of physics at all.
Exactly.
when Bucky grabs the motorcycle from that dude,
And swings it around.
it's so sick. Like, there's just such a great shot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like how they did it in slow motion.
I wanted to see that in 3D.
It didn't feel ridiculous either. I was like, oh, a slow motion thing.
Yeah.
It's like that's something that you would
That's
expect
mine.
to see in like Fast and Furious or something.
Yeah.
That just like
Yeah, but then he's right on it
I
right
love-
away.
I love how all these characters are like superhuman fast. I love just watching them booking it down the.
Oh, yeah, they're hauling.
Captain America had to
Oh,
get
too.
in a car though to catch up to Black
And I
Panther.
love Black Panther on the back of the car. He's like trying
Yeah.
to get him on. He's stuck on it, and eventually everything just kind of comes to a head, and they're all circled up, and War Machine shows up. All the cops show up, and Cap's like, "Okay, we have to stop fighting at this point." Like,
Congratulations,
this is-
Cap! You're a criminal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from War Machine.
And that's really the first time those Sokovia Accords comes into play. Like they're
It's like,
Right.
we're signed up, and now you're a criminal because this is law.
yeah.
And then you get the public reveal that, hi, I'm T'Challa. And
Yeah, he just takes it off, and then even War Machine's Your Highness.
yeah. I guess it's-
Like he's been king for less than an hour,
Sure.
or for what we know, he's been king very short, and they're already like, "Oh, Your Majesty," or I
Yeah.
think he calls him Your Highness, but
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, clearly he's well known, especially by Rhodey knows him clearly because he's obviously Black Panther's the military leader of Wakanda,
Right.
previous to becoming king,
Yeah.
and he's the defender. So Rhodey, having the military background, recognizes him immediately for who he is.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that was great. And then they bring him in to, I keep wanting to say SHIELD facilities, but they're not because SHIELD doesn't really exist
No,
in the
their
SHIELD
Hydra
system.
facility.
Yeah,
Sorry.
pretty much. But
What World
Government
Security Council?
facilities.
Is that what it is?
well, World Security Council manage SHIELD, so I think they've been disbanded, and like I think half of them are dead after Winter Soldier too. So I just don't. It is a government facility,
The
probably
UN
ran
is
by
running
General
it.
Ross. Yeah,
How does Agents of Shield progress? In that?
who knows or cares?
Have you watched it? Do you know?
No.
I feel so stupid for that, but like
Don't feel stupid. None of
people
us
swear up and down by it. By the way,
I have several friends
is
who watch
crazy.
that religiously. They love the show. So
it
I
looks
just
so
haven't gotten
dumb
into
to
it.
me. I
Yes.
want to watch it though. I really do, but it's just
I wanted to point out a small Easter egg, and people are going to be like, well, that's just a coincidence. No, it was intentional, damn it. The holding cell that Bucky's in,
Yes.
the block number, it's D23. And
Is that Mighty Ducks reference?
no, it's so there's Comic-Con. Disney does its own Comic-Con. That's D23.
Oh,
no.
D23 is the name of the con. That's where they show exclusive Marvel footage and everything else. So it was like he was in holding block D23. I was like, that has to be, yeah. So a small thing.
things like that are always thought through.
Yes.
So where are we at?
We're at. They're just bringing Bucky in to
Oh, okay.
to the government facility, and I guess we kind of skipped over how Zemo got to this point. We were introduced to Zemo. He was like, "That's not waterboarding. What is that? When you have someone hanging upside down and had him into a sink, try and drown him."
He was attempting to drown him.
Yeah.
It's essentially. Well, it's not specifically waterboarding, but it gets the same
it's
effect. It
essentially
simulates
that, yeah.
drowning because at some point it fills up over your nose, and all you can do is breathe in water.
Yeah. It was pretty messed up. So and we don't even know who he is at that point. We just know that he's a bad dude, and he's really trying to get
Some information about
this red book
1999.
that we were introduced to in the
One.
beginning that has all the code words to set off the Winter Soldier.
Well, and he's very adamant about the date of 1991. That
Yes.
was August, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the day was. 1991. This one event that kind of ties through it. And everyone keeps coming to it. Everyone needs to know about this one day.
Yeah.
I guess
This
the thing
dude
I'm-
that he's drowning is adamantly not. He's going to die over it.
Yeah.
Don't tell him.
yes. absolutely. He's willing to go to the grave over not revealing what this one thing is.
Because they've kept it a secret all these years. Like, I think Tony at one point in Iron Man 2 or something said, my parents died in a car crash.
Yeah.
And it was just a car crash.
He says it, Iron Man says it in the Weird Science scene. He says,
if I'd already known this is going to be the last time.
Last time I saw him, they weren't going to make it home.
Yeah.
Or, what did he say? They never even made it to where they were going or whatever. Yeah, something like that.
But, so they're in the scene, and Tony's still at this point semi-lighthearted, but he's like, Cap, we gotta go through with this. Like, you need to sign. And did we ever get the scene with Scarlet Witch and Vision at this point where they were just talking? Yeah. And Vision was cooking?
Yeah, she's in protective holding.
At the compound.
After the first incident in Sokovia, or in Africa, she goes in the protective holding with Vision. And that's where they have the great conversation about Vision talking about the fact that the catastrophe will happen when I'm going blank. When people try and do good things or whatever it is, they try and control stuff, that catastrophes end up happening.
Right.
And then later on he even references it back saying, I told you, catastrophe.
Yes.
But you also see him talk about the fact that he wants to understand and possibly even control the Mind Stone, because he doesn't even get what it is.
Right.
He's like, it's part of me, yet I don't even know it. And I really want to understand. You see the human side of Vision, which is just awesome. His skin, his clothes are his skin, so he's intentionally morphing his skin into sweater vest and button-up shirts with a collar to make himself look casual for everyone else, even though he's still got a red and silver face. You can change that too, but he's just changing the suit, not his face.
And I like that, he's like, in my defense, I've never eaten food before, so, and then Scarlet Witch is trying to eat it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is, but it's not paprika.
But yeah, so then
that's when you find out that she can't leave, though.
Yeah, because she didn't know. She's like, I'll go get it, and she's like,
no, maybe we should order pizza.
Yeah.
Am I not allowed?
But going back to the facility where they're holding Bucky and things, Zemo has found his way to slip into the facility. By the way,
he's got the book.
Yes, he's got the book with the sayings on it. And he was practicing it so he would get the words down so he could set off Winter Soldier. By the way, the guy that he killed, that he was posing as in the tub, is one of the directors.
Oh, really? Who
was also in... he was the doctor that was patching up Nick Fury in Winter Soldier.
Okay.
One of the directors. And it's the same half. The other brother doesn't like to get in front of the camera. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's Anthony Russo. It's Anthony and Joe Russo. I don't know which one's which. But anyways.
I don't know what they look like. They're directors.
Yeah. So yeah, Zemo gets in there and he's asking Bucky questions, and then Zemo set up a bomb to kill all the power lines so that there's all the system failures in there just in time for him to say the last words and get Bucky under his control.
Well, he's even watching his laptop. He knows roughly the time he's watching his laptop, and the second it's delivered and it comes up and he gets the alert saying the package has been delivered, he sets it off.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which is incredible kind of timing on everything. But then when it goes off, and it shuts down the power to the entire city.
Yeah.
And their facility is just, you'd think they'd have backup power. What I think is crazy is it's not just that. It looked like an EMP when it went off.
Yeah.
And power's gone everywhere, yet Tony's glasses still work, which are an electronic device and would have, if it had been an actual EMP. But the way it initially went off, it looked like it was an EMP blast because it was just disintegrating all the electromagnetic.
It might have been.
Do they work, or is he trying to get them to work?
No, he turned them on because he starts talking to Friday immediately. What do you got?
Okay.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And she's working.
I would think Tony, being as smart as he is, and I don't know how
probably
to do
shielded,
this.
possibly.
Exactly. You got to explain everything away when a comic book movie.
His tech is exactly. I'm with
you
on
superior.
that. Yeah, exactly.
It's not that hard to believe because that's always been my thing with Iron Man reading the comics. It's like anybody with an EMP can take out Iron Man. So I'm sure that he has something to shield from EMPs.
Well, we'll talk about it later. But the way people do start going out when his suit starts getting attacked, they start punching the bottom to knock the rocket out of the boot.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that an EMP, they didn't have handy.
Yeah.
But they're just going to punch his suit until it's done, done over with. But later on.
Brute force versus technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And then his watch gauntlet, which is so cool. And I like how they incorporate that Robert Downey Jr. actually studies Wing Chun and loves martial arts.
Yes.
So he comes up to Winter Soldier. He's like, cool, cool, cool. And they have like really great action sequence. And then he holds the bullet. And I think at this point, nobody's expecting Bucky to try to kill anyone because he's been just running for the most part. Moment.
Yeah.
But then Bucky, and this didn't make sense to me in the trailer because I remember watching the trailer. I was like, why is Bucky trying to shoot Tony in the face? He would have killed him.
But before we get to there, Zemo starts giving him the words downstairs after the EMP. All the power's going.
Great car.
He starts telling him all the words, and Bucky knows what's coming.
He's like, no, trying to get out.
The fact that he's in there, he's locked in, and apparently he could have broken out at any moment.
Yeah.
Except for it would have given him an electric shock, I guess. But
sure.
He uses the arm to rip out of the suit, and he starts punching a hole in, but he can't get out until he gets out a moment too late. The guy's already finished all the words, but he knows it's coming. That he's heard those words, and it kills him every time because he knows he's about to turn into a robot and to do whatever they want him to do. And that moment when that happens, and then they come in and Cap and Falcon try and stop him before he gets out, and when he's in that mode, man, he is
relentless.
Lethal. Well, because he's not fighting with a conscience.
Yeah.
He's just trying to win. Like you said, he tries to shoot Tony in the face. Thank goodness he had the watch on that turned into the glove to stop.
I freaking love that Tony like rips off the top of the gun, stares at it like, oh hey, smacks Winter Soldier in the face. Like he gets some good hits on there until he just knocks him across the room.
Yeah.
And takes out Sharon, takes out Black Widow. He's just like, again, no relentless. He's like, I'm not afraid to hit a woman. I'll throw her across the room, flip her through a table.
And that's also where you see Black Panther again, not in his suit, but just his straight skills. Like Bucky runs up the stairs away from him, and Black Panther comes jumping over a different rail down to him. It's like, how did he get up that high? That fast? That Bucky went upstairs and you came down at him. Like,
that's how.
Like, okay, I don't know who he is or how fast he is, but holy crap, this guy's
crazy.
And then you gotta think super soldier serum and super powered arm, and T'Challa is holding it against him.
Oh, there's it's in a later sequence, but when he is fighting and he does like a triple roundhouse kick, he jumps in the air, kicks, I think it's Cap's shield 3 times, and he's just spinning, bang, bang, bang.
Were
as
you
they're fighting against him?
Were you sitting close enough to me to hear you during that scene?
You're a little. I heard him. You were having like these weird like happiness, excitement attacks. Just I forget exactly what sound you were making, but you were going.
You gotta pardon me, but I specifically remember that kick because I involuntarily went Jesus, like right in the middle.
Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Like when you see like Black Panther for the first time, I'm hearing like some weird noise, like some like
some little fanboy squeal. Yeah,
I have no idea. I don't remember, but I'm like, that's got to be Jesse.
It was a real thing.
I did the same thing on accident, and I'm in a theater with not as many people and by myself watching it. But when Ant-Man goes Giant Man.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But obviously we're fast forwarding there. But he that moment in that fight when you see Black Panther holding his own against Bucky without anything, and then he ends up getting all the way to the helipad, and then you see the bicep porn like we talked earlier, where he's physics. A helicopter could lift Captain America. He's only at best 220 pounds.
You saw him,
right.
And I think a lot of people are critiquing this, but like you saw him starting getting pulled up. He was kind of doing like this. Like,
yeah,
he was trying to get air jerks. Like,
he was trying to dig in and like he was trying to squat into it. It's a helicopter. There's enough downforce if he had pushed up, he could have gotten it.
Right.
However, a little more believable once he got his, because your feet can't dig in horizontally from up. But once he got to the edge of the rail and he grabbed hold and he's doing the curl right here and holding it down, it was just like. Cap was impressive. And so the cool thing I thought with that also is Bucky realizes I can't get away. He's actually pulling me back down. So he tanks the helicopter to try and chop him in half with the blades, and it just starts cutting in.
I don't know about you, but like I literally went like this with my head when the blades are spinning around. I was like,
Yeah, because the whole thing spins around, and the helicopter whips around, and Cap's got to lay flat so it goes right over him. I mean,
it was crazy.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the cool action sequences, and then they're out in their suits.
And then
they're all just t-shirts and blue jeans, And then they fall off the roof.
Yeah.
Which fortunately, that's what knocks Bucky back to reality.
His weakness is water.
Yeah, they should carry like a squirt bottle everywhere they go with him.
Bucky down.
I think it might have been more
What
than
did I
got knocked
do?
out, but he had
Still
to drag
alive.
him up. He's out cold, and then
Can I say how great that was? Like, it was a what do you call it? Symmetry between Winter Soldier the movie and this is Bucky pulling Cap out of the water.
Yes,
And
I
Cap-
thought the exact same thing. It drops in the thing. Clearly not as deep a water, but
No.
they go down. And I thought, man, this is like a replay of how their last engagement ended, and now they're in here doing it again. But this time, Cap gets to save him. Matter of fact, he even alludes that why'd you pull me out of the water?
Yeah.
And Bucky's like, I don't know. When that was earlier.
He's like, you're lying. Yeah.
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 But it was great.
I just
Then-
saw that scene. I just rewatched a bunch of Winter Soldier clips last night.
Nice.
But just prior to that, when they're sitting down, or just after that, when he's talking to him in the warehouse, and he's like, "What Bucky am I talking to here?" And Bucky starts ripping off. He knows his mom. He knows his family. They know everything.
Right.
And
That was
that's
such a good reveal.
Yes, it was great.
That
That Bucky still has. He's still Bucky.
but a lot's happened to Bucky.
He's had a lot of damage into him, and unfortunately, the brainwashing, all the things, it's all the brainwashing that he gets done to him. And Cap can see that, and that's why Cap's trying to save him. It's just such a hard thing for Tony to wrap his head around. He's like, he was brainwashed. He still killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, Tony even recognizes it. He calls him the Manchurian Candidate.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's like, can you put the gun down? You're making me uncomfortable. You know?
Hey, Manchurian Candidate, point that somewhere else. See, agency, there's a truce here.
Yeah.
So I mean, they did get some comedy in there.
There's
Right,
more than I
but
thought,
but
yeah.
but there's the fact that, and we'll get back to it later. But the fact that Iron Man recognizes that, I mean, he's a hypnotized soldier sleeper agent, and that what happened wasn't his bidding, but.
Right. Well, there's definitely some things I want
But
to say
like
about that part.
we mentioned, I don't know if it was earlier in this one or in the spoiler-free one, but a lot of Iron Man is emotionally driven
Oh yeah.
Oh,
in
big
this
time.
film for sure. So
I think they're both emotionally driven. Cap's protecting his best friend since childhood. The
Sure.
guy that stuck up for him because it's basically roles have swapped. Bucky used to stick up for little Cap, and now Cap's like, I gotta stick up for my friend.
But even at that, when they were
It's
going
true.
after Hydra, Bucky was his right-hand man, like #1 lieutenant, when they were going after Hydra, up until he fell off the train in
Yeah.
the first Avenger. Bucky was his guy, and they went on. It's one of those fast-forward type things in that movie, but they go on a lot of missions, saving a lot of people, stopping a lot of Hydra, and before Bucky falls. And so they've got a lot of history leading up, but then in battle, they were together for a long time.
Probably more than Cap and Tony.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the history there is deep, very deep. It's different, obviously, between Cap and Tony, but there's something about childhood friends that kind of.
It's
separately too, you see a lot of emotion in there, but it's I feel like Steve comes from more of a logic side. You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying? Like, even though you see emotion a lot, and like I said earlier, you get a lot more character development by Captain America in this film than you do in a lot of all his other films.
Yeah.
So he does clearly have a lot of character development, but at the same time, you just don't see like just raw emotion in it that you do with like Iron Man. The whole like he's like complete. Iron Man is completely conflicted with this. Steve knows exactly what his position is. Iron Man has kind of got the what if I'm wrong?
We
in the
do
back of
see
his head.
Steve waver a little
Gearing.
bit when Tony talks about like I think we can make adjustments to this after the signing.
He's willing
and,
to.
and he picks
until-
up the pen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't remember what Tony says, but Tony says something, and Cap puts the pen down. He's
But he knows where he's not going to negotiate.
right.
He knows where he won't budge. His limitations.
What I was going to say is that
It's mostly logic, is what I'm saying.
now that Peggy has passed, Bucky's all Cap has. Tony has
From his previous life.
right. Yeah, Tony has Rhodes. Well, I guess he doesn't really have Pepper now, but like
He doesn't have Pepper. He doesn't have his family.
I think they're both
All
kind of
Iron Man
clinging
really
onto some-
has is the Avengers.
And really, he's got
And,
Cap.
and Iron Man is clinging on to Captain America as much as they dislike each other.
Right.
You know?
They're the two leaders. If you look at the relationship that Tony has with all the different Avenger peoples, Banner left. Scientifically, those two are
They're the science
perfect
bros.
match. They're with each other. But as far as a relationship, he had Pepper outside.
Right.
So he didn't have any relationships with any of the female characters on the same level. He is very distrusting of Black Widow. Just
should be.
she's the playing both sides.
Rightfully so, because she does betray him.
Exactly. And so really for him, Banner's gone. Cap's the leader of the team, and he's always known that about Cap. That's his one that's almost like his one friend left in the world.
So I was trying to really reason with him. He's like, come on.
Absolutely, because he knows that he needs Cap on his side in order for it to work also. And when it goes down, you almost see Tony, everything he does is a desperation attempt to try and get Cap back on his side.
How important is Captain America to the general public in believing with this? When you think about
His
it,
name's goddamn America.
Yeah, he's Captain America. He was the face of America in war.
He won us the war.
They have comic books and all this stuff about him. Everybody has grown up their whole lives knowing about him. They probably, while he was frozen in ice and they didn't know that he was alive,
History Channel
probably made television shows based on him and stuff like that. Like all crazy sorts of stuff.
Agent Coulson had his baseball trading cards.
Yeah,
his trading cards that he
cards.
wanted the autographs of.
Right.
That Nick Fury used as the nudge to get him back going in the right direction.
And it's crazy. So for this movement, for these papers, what were they called again?
With Sokovia Accords.
The Sokovia Accords, right? How important is Captain America's position in that? Is getting
for
him
public perception.
For public
it's
perception,
huge.
yes, it's huge.
That
Absolutely.
and also Tony knows that basically the Avengers staying a team revolves around Cap getting on board, because the other people follow him into battle.
For sure. So where are we at?
Well, now that Cap's with Bucky, Iron Man and Black Widow are like, okay, we're gonna have to put a stop to this. They talk to General Ross and they're like, we need to. I know you're so excited. Calm down for a second. General Ross comes in and he's like, we're gonna go get him. He's like, no, the only way we do this, I have to go get him. Stop. Slow down. He's like, I have to go get him. And he's like, just give me 72 hours. He's like, you have 36. And he says, what's Bucky's? Barnes. He's like, Barnes, Rogers, and he walks away. He's like, and Wilson. He's like, okay, 36 hours. And then Black Widow says, we're short-staffed. And then he's like, you got any ideas? He's like, well, mine's downstairs, which is Black Panther.
Black Panther, for sure.
And then he's like, how about you? And then, Queens!
Yeah.
I'll let you go take it. Take it, Tyler.
No way.
The step in when Peter shows up at home,
Right.
and he knows who Tony Stark is. He's a tech fan.
Yeah.
He knows Tony Stark. He's building computers and all kinds of stuff. He's made his own web shooters. He's made all that stuff himself. He walks in and Tony Stark's sitting on his couch with his aunt, which great job on the casting of Marissa Tomei, the younger aunt.
I always thought it was a little ridiculous that Peter's as old as he is, and his aunt is as old as she is.
Yes,
right.
It's an aunt.
They've always made
she's probably,
old Aunt
if he's in his teens, she's probably in her 40s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Marissa Tomei.
It was a good casting. And even
More
Tony,
appropriate, a lot more appropriate.
But he walks in and you can see almost like his face like drop like, okay, and you see the awkward teenager for the first time, and then Tony's trying to help him out, like winking at him and tell him, "Oh, I'm here about the grant for MIT that you applied for." Like winking.
And I didn't catch it at first.
He's completely oblivious. Like, yeah, the grant. What was that again? It's like, here, come on.
Like his eyes go.
During that, it took me a while to figure out that he had never met Tony Stark before,
or he didn't apply for a grant.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I thought that the grant was like. I mean, obviously, it was like he was lying about it, but it was. I thought that he was saying like, I want to talk to you about Spider-Man because I want Spider-Man to do something, so I'm here. The grant, right? But so that's what I thought. It hadn't occurred to me that this is the first time Spider-Man's.
I got that impression right away.
Yeah, I got the impression it was first encounter, which was quite unique because he's trying to help this kid and Peter can't get out of his own way. Like, he can't shut up, can't listen. And then when they finally do get out, can I have a few minutes with him alone, real quick? And he's having the walnut brittle cookie thing, walks in the room, spits it out. As far as walnut cookies go, that wasn't terrible. But then he starts asking him about it, and Peter's trying to pretend like he's not Spider-Man.
He's so shocked because one, never told anybody. Two, obviously no one's ever come to him just saying you're Spider-Man.
We also find out he's only had the powers for 6 months.
Which is good, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like this character's been floating around the Marvel universe for a long time. He's new. He's still wearing the pajama suit.
I love that
costume.
quick screenshot of his like costume. He's like, "What are these? Can you see through those? Can you even?" He's like, "Yeah, I can see through those."
Yeah, I can see. He's offended.
It does a great job of saying the fact that my senses have been so enhanced. I see everything. These help me focus.
Yeah,
which is something you don't really think about. The fact that he can literally probably pick up on so much, and so the goggles being honed in enhance his ability to see.
And also
specifics.
kind of explain maybe the with his eyes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and so he's got to. I thought that was like one of those little Easter egg things that you'd have to know something about Spider-Man to be able to get and understand.
But who doesn't know things?
The
about
first
Spider-Man?
time
You'd be surprised.
The
possibly.
first time somebody funded his costume, which makes so much more sense than teenager being able to afford these high-tech, really sweet-looking Spider-Man
the
costumes.
Tobey Maguire costume, which looked like the original one that he was using, the pajama suit, and then suddenly, he goes to the wrestling match wearing that piece of crap, and the next thing you know, he's flying around the city in the spandex lycra suit.
It shows him sewing it like the Grinch.
This suit, at least he got it. It's got tech. It's meant for a reason.
Tony talks about the tensile strength that he did develop himself.
Yeah, and so Tony knows this kid's smart,
yes.
and that's one of the things in the comic books. He's super smart, but in the it's a little bit in the Amazing Spider-Man series, not so much in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series.
Oh yeah, when Andrew Garfield's crafting the web, it's really cool.
But you don't get that he's super smart.
Right.
He's smart, but Peter Parker, especially with his enhanced senses, becomes super smart. He is.
I feel
highly,
like
highly intelligent.
the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans were a lot more emotionally character-based, and they didn't really focus on who Peter Parker really is and who Spider-Man really is. They're just trying to tie like some sort of like emotional drama into it, if that makes a little sense.
With Peter Parker, the Tobey Maguire, you got the post-high school, but he felt like a 25 to 30-year-old Spider-Man. And he was going through a lot of emotional things all the time.
You do get that like Peter Parker's poor. He's like this struggling student trying to juggle his future and also being Spider-Man. Right. So that was captured pretty well in those. I just feel like
in the Sam Raimi films, they robbed Spider-Man of some of his genius by giving him organic web shooters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
did like the idea of organic web shooters just because like how is that going on in him? But at the same time, it makes him a little bit more unique. Yeah. A lot more important of a character.
I just like part of what you want characters to go through, like trials and objections and things, and he was constantly running out of web or having web shooter malfunctions, or the fact that he could be like, you take Cap's shield away from him, that takes a big part of him away. You bust Spider-Man's web shooters, then he's left to his own devices a little bit.
Organically, you can run out of things too.
Well, he does when he loses the passion to be Spider-Man.
Right.
He starts losing his powers.
When he gets ED.
When he gets performance issues.
Thanks for that, Andy.
Overall, I thought Tom Holland as Peter Parker in the initial introduction, you get to see his suit and everything. And then in the Easter egg at the end of the trailers, or at the end of the credits, you get to see even some of the more tech that's built in with his stuff.
So you guys both need to watch The Impossible if you haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
So then what do we get next? Is this when we go back to Vision and Scarlet Witch?
Yes, Hawkeye is busting.
Yes.
So basically, this is the portion of the movie where they're all building a team. Everyone's getting together, and they dig Hawkeye out, and Hawkeye is mentality-wise right with Cap. He is 100% with Cap, anti Tony Stark, anti-government. He knows what can happen when you get sent into places you don't want.
And he owes Scarlet Witch a favor.
And he owes Scarlet Witch a favor. And the fact that he gets sent in to rescue her, and he's trying to like knock out Vision.
Right.
Vision's phasing ability in this movie that they barely hinted at in Age of Ultron, but that's why I love Vision. I think his power is so visually cool to watch. He just wipes the floor with Hawkeye, because every time Hawkeye turns his, like, vroom, and then every time he hits Hawkeye, he turns fully dense, and he's just like, it's like fighting a ghost that can change, like, density, and that's why Vision's such a cool character, but that was great.
Well, what's funny is the whole time Hawkeye comes in to try and rescue Scarlet Witch, and then Scarlet Witch has to rescue Hawkeye and herself, so she defeats Vision.
Right.
What a cool battle sequence, because Vision doesn't even really use his powers apart from turning himself, into a specter and floating through. That fight scene between those two is pretty quick, and he makes very short work of Hawkeye.
Understandably.
And then Scarlet Witch is like, okay, I'm gonna put the.
But how much is Vision? Is Vision more trying to just morally he wants to let her go, but his loyalty to Tony is kind of keeping her there. He wants to avoid
conflict.
So when she just overpowers him, I'm wondering if he just kind of lets it.
I'm not sure, and a lot of people are like, it was so cool how she threw him through all the floors. Knowing Vision's powers and the fact that she accessed his stone, I don't think that's what happened. I think
she used him to fly through him.
What's that?
She used him to fly through him.
Well, no, because he can change his density, meaning like he can become as heavy as possible or as light and transparent as possible. I think she upped his weight and he just went through.
Oh, instead of just forcing him through.
Yeah,
I think he just fell. Okay.
I think what it was doing, because it looked like when she started accessing
that would be a lot easier for her to do than to force him through all the floors.
Right.
As well.
She was accessing the stone and it showed the ground start cracking beneath him. And he started falling backwards. I was like, he's getting heavier. He's getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and finally just.
Sure, I'd have to see it again, but I don't.
It could be either way, but if
no, I'm leaning more towards she forced him down, just because of like how
she was using the hand motions.
If you're falling through, you're gonna fall, and then you're gonna hit, and then you're gonna fall, and then you're gonna hit, and then you're gonna fall. This is boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, it would actually slow your momentum. Each one you hit stops your force, because 10 or 12 feet isn't enough to gain enough speed to bust through, unless you were to be weighing 100,000 pounds or something like that. And the way she was motioning it, she was pushing down, like wading into him to get him to drive through.
Yeah.
For me, it felt like she was shoving.
Yeah.
Either way, she kicked his ass
quickly.
Yeah.
And then we have Hawkeye's joining. He grabs Scarlet Witch. We grab Spider-Man.
You have them get their suits back. We alluded to this a little bit earlier with the car scene with the humor. When Cap gets out of the fact that the three huge dudes, none of those three are small, are riding around Berlin in a Volkswagen
when he
Beetle.
Steps out of it,
are you inconspicuous?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like.
Can you move your seat up?
No.
Can you move your seat up? No. And
Dude,
then when
that was so unexpected. I had no idea.
Well, and then
I left my
there's
ass
two
on.
funny parts in
you
there.
see him slide over to the other seat so he can sit behind Cap, because there's at least maybe a little more room. But then Cap is having the conversation with Sharon. They're discussing the fact that she's now liable. Like, she knows she stepped out to get their suits back and steal them and give them back to him. So she's in trouble. And then he finally kisses her, and it's like it's been too long coming. And kind of weird that he's finally having a relationship with Peggy's niece. The woman that he loved back in the 50s is gone, and then he's now back.
I said it before. It reminds me a lot of Bicentennial Man.
I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to be too crude, but like I just really hope that they don't ever get to getting. And he's like, Peggy, what? Sharon.
No.
That won't happen. Come on.
Oh, that'd be so awkward. But
It's tragic, though.
It is.
Because
well, the woman he fell in love with is gone, and like we were talking about earlier, the fact that the
She
last
was
people he
mentally
has
gone
tied
already.
to his life before
It's
now
Bucky.
is Bucky. He's
And
the last
he was
man
lucky.
left.
He's lucky to even have Bucky for sure.
Yeah, Bucky should have
Because-
died when he fell off the train.
Should have died then.
Bucky probably wishes that too.
He should
Yes.
have died then, and even if he didn't die, he'd be probably dead now. You know,
Yeah.
True.
Captain America was frozen in ice for
Later
years,
in the movie,
you
they
know?
joke about the fact that this thing hasn't been, or looks like it's 100 years old, and he's
So
like,
are
so are
we."
we. Yeah. Which is very, very accurate.
Yeah.
But when they kiss, and then he looks back, and both guys are in the car, like, yeah,
Get it, Cap.
giving him the nod, and Cap's like, you guys almost like flustered, like they're watching.
We had such like a childhood, like teenage moment.
Yeah,
My friend were like,
exactly.
"Get it, Cap."
Yeah.
But that's also one of those moments where Falcon and Bucky are doing not necessarily a great deal of bonding, but a little bit,
Yeah.
because they're on the same team, they are working together, and they're developing a little bit of a
You could
rapport
see
there.
you could see sort of an Iron Man Captain America relationship in it.
A little bit.
Where there's some animosity, but there's also some respect.
At some,
Except for the clear "I hate you" line after Spider-Man floors him.
Well,
Yeah.
but would Tony not say that to Cap also?
Yeah, but that's one of those funny things about like I hate you. Kind of like when Hulk punches Thor through the wall after they kind of come into the building in the first Avengers movie, and Hulk's just like boom, punches him out. And it's like that's how brothers fight.
Yeah.
Like that's what they do to each other. They like
Hulk's
couldn't you have thought of that earlier? Like
Yeah.
it's genius.
Well, I mean, I would if you said some sarcastic comment, I'd be the same. I'd be like, I hate you. Like, shut up. But so then, Paul Rudd.
Oh, when the introduction of Paul Rudd and he gets out, he's like been all. It almost looks like he's been out cold in the thing. He's like, I got him some coffee, and he pops up, hops out, and he's like, hey. You're Captain. Hey, you're Steve Rogers. Like, oh my! And he's doing the fanboy thing where he's like, oh my gosh. And then he looks around. And he's like, hey, I know you too. You're great, by the way, Captain America.
And then he touches him.
Yeah, he walks up. He like grabs his shoulders. Like, wow, man.
And who does that? Like,
Paul Rudd
like I think everybody knows that's not an appropriate thing to do. He's just like,
wow, you are in shape.
He's like, I know you know a lot of super people, so thanks of thanking for me.
Yeah,
thanks for thinking.
yes. I thought I caught that line initially too, and I'm like, that is such a quick joke that like slips in. It was very good.
Cap doesn't even acknowledge it; he just nods.
No,
Like, I know what you meant.
but then everyone's like, and who are you? Or that comes later on. That comes later on. Yeah. But still, a really cool moment right there with the teams forming. And I think right from there, is that where we jump to the airport?
Pretty sure we
it goes
get
right
to
there.
the airport scene.
Yeah.
Woo!
And then that's most of my notes.
Yeah, that's literally like that's the next hour of conversation. But what is so great is there's things that you forget about with the movie where when the teams are coming up and Cap's jogging out to the airport, they basically get wind that the airport's been abandoned. They're like, okay, well, Tony's coming. Time to get out there.
And then surprise, he's there already.
Yeah.
With the team in tow.
Yeah.
And he again tries to talk to Cap.
Yes. The cool thing is there also Cap goes out alone.
Yeah.
Cap walks out. It's Cap and Iron Man, and everybody else shows up, and then they call us the Underoos, and Spider-Man gets finally introduced, stealing the shield and everything.
And then you forget where's Ant-Man.
Yeah,
like you're looking at the group and
yeah,
you don't even think about where's Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Oh man, Ant-Man's so dang good in this.
But what does Spider-Man say there?
I think he does like his introductions. He's like, hey everyone.
But it's
and
weird.
then he starts talking about the
He's
suit, and then Tony's like, we didn't need to start a conversation.
I'm Spider-Man. It's like, it's really weird and awkward. It's like in the face of all these heroes.
Well, and that's the moment you know he's the teenager.
Right.
That's the kid. Awkward situation, incredible abilities, meeting in with this group of incredible people. Socially, really.
Well, when he makes that, have you ever seen that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back? And then
how old is this kid?
Yeah.
I didn't carbon date him. He's on the younger side, you know.
Cap, big fan.
Yeah, it's like no, we're not doing this right now.
Just laughing about some of the Spider-Man lines.
Freaking, and then Ant-Man crawls from under the shield, and I remember going, "Hey!"
Ant-Man has so many cool like little bits in the movie, like where I'll be honest, there's that, and then when the fight scene breaks out and everyone just starts, it's absolute chaos. That's where Ant-Man really is at his peak when he gets inside the Iron Man suit.
I'm your conscience.
Yeah,
You haven't heard
who
from me
is talking? And he's just like unplugging wires and running around. And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna hit the you do the fire suppression system." And he's like, "Oh no, like this is like, I gotta go." Like, what if he had just turned himself on inside the suit?
Oh jeez, death.
Oh yeah, would have killed one of the two.
Yeah.
But
they both probably would have died.
Unless he went to the Giant Man or something.
Oh.
But either way, it's still really cool, and the fact that he progresses all the way up to Giant Man from Ant-Man, like he goes straight up. He's not walking around as himself. He's like, I've done this once before.
In a lab. And I passed out.
Yeah. I'm just hoping I don't tear. So two things will happen: either it'll work or I'll tear myself in half. So here, we're gonna give it a shot. It's like holy cow! And as soon as he said that he was gonna try something else, I was like, oh, like. Yeah. And I was waiting for that moment. I really wanted to see Giant Man. That is one of the cooler moments. Mm-hmm. And when he gets up big like that, and I like the fact that they really showed how lumbering and slow he was because he's so big to try and make any movement. That, yeah. But when he catches War Machine by the leg and he's swinging him around.
He's just like a little bug.
like almost like what you'd expect a kid to do.
Yeah.
Well, that was
When he's
awesome.
giant.
Like clearly because he becomes a giant, but there's some focus on him, but they're all like intertwined in their own little battles. And as soon as he becomes this big giant Goliath, they're all like, "Oh, holy shit, that guy!"
I love
They would
that
never,
Spider-Man being teenagers. Holy shit!
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah.
And then Tony's like, "Does anyone else have some amazing, fantastical powers that they like?"
Yeah. reveal right now.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, they.
But that's also I believe that's the area where we see the Black Panther do the triple roundhouse kick against the Cap shield.
He's fighting Cap for a bit, and yeah, that was
That
crazy.
did a good job of bouncing people in between. Like not one person fought anybody else the entire time.
Right.
It kind of went back and forth a lot. The battles skipped around.
But at the same point, they all did have their counterparts.
Yes.
They did have they had a specific that they were opposite. Scarlet Witch was opposite of Vision, Cap and Tony, Bucky versus Black Panther, Spider-Man versus Ant-Man. They all and War Machine and
Black Widow versus.
I like when
Hawkeye.
Vision shows up. He literally like draws the line in the sand. He's like, "Stop here," and he tries to talk to him. He's like, "Know what you think? What you're doing is right." And then we had Black Widow and Hawkeye fighting, and it's like sometimes quips in a serious moment don't really work, but with them because of their history, it did. It's like we're still friends, right? It depends on how hard you hit me. And then she was gonna roundhouse kick him in the face, and Scarlet Witch goes, "Woo!" and just like throws her into a freaking
against the like her torso hit the side of that moving van like it was just
And
careened
then she hit the
off.
ground. She's like, ugh. And I was like, Scarlet Witch isn't trying to kill anybody, but she's like, she's incapacitated.
And he
for a little
says
bit.
something like, "I owe you one again" or something like.
Well, she said you were pulling your punches. And he's like,
Oh.
okay. I'm just trying to think. And then Hawkeye ends up going to fight Black Widow, or not Black Widow, Black Panther. There's a lot of Black and Panthers and Widows, which was a good fight.
Also, you saw where the strength of his claws come in because he cuts right through the
bow staff thing. Yeah.
That he breaks out the stick.
So I
and
think
he's
it's
using
his
the baton.
I think it's like maybe his. No, it can't be his bow because he uses his bows later. I thought maybe he converted it.
No,
to a
he
bow
breaks
staff.
out a baton because it's a little handle and he whips it and it sticks out. It's almost like a police baton
Yeah.
extended, and he starts using that to fight until it gets ripped in half. Also,
Right.
in which case he's like, okay.
He's like, I don't think we've been officially introduced. I'm Clint. I don't care.
That Black Panther in that fight, in that whole entire sequence, is just, again, like we talked about earlier, he's outstanding. I mean,
Yes.
his physicality, Chadwick Boseman really did a great job. And I really do hope that that's actually Chadwick Boseman inside the suit.
I
Doing
think a
those
lot of
action
the time
sequences.
it is, but he
Not
probably
just
has a
stunt
stunt man.
I'm sure they have somebody, but I mean, either way, incredibly well done. The
Yes.
fight sequence in there was fantastic. One of the best parts is when they're trying to figure out how to take down Giant Man, and you lead it to the Empire Strikes Back. He's like, "Have you guys ever seen that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back?"
Right.
And they make the comments about how old he is, and he's like, "Remember the AT-AT?"
Yeah.
And he starts swinging his legs, and the second they start doing, I'm like, "Oh man, this is genius."
Yeah.
But also, when Giant Man rips the wing off the plane and swings it and ends up hitting, I think, Rhodey out of the air.
Right.
There's just a lot of cool little. They used a lot of the surrounding
Here,
scenery around.
throw this.
That's
at
what I was
it.
gonna say. Don't
Yeah.
forget about throwing the truck, and
Oh.
it blows up.
Yeah.
And War
like-
Machine almost gets taken. I was like, I thought that was a water truck.
Yeah.
War Machine is underneath that when it hits him.
Yeah.
And he gets basically
I
pile
was like, you
driven
gotta
into
be
the ground.
kidding me.
Yeah.
There's so much like every.
You have the right to remain silent. How unbelievably funny was that?
when he's taking on Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I like Falcon and Winter Soldier are like aside from the beginning of the battle, and they're like running through the terminal, and then Spider-Man's like on the glass,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Who the hell's that guy?" He's like, "Everyone's got a gimmick now."
Yes. Also, one of the funnier things, Bucky can literally punch through anything with that arm.
Except
And
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man just like turns it like, "You got a metal arm. That's awesome."
yeah.
Well, you see him like with like this. He's like what? He's stopping a car from hitting a bus in the video with
Yeah.
that Iron Man shows him
Yeah.
from his phone. He's like right here at the bus, and then a car is coming at him. He has this much space to stop that vehicle, so
He
he's
absorbs
pretty
it all.
damn strong.
Yeah.
So
well, when the terminal falls and he catches the entire terminal.
oh right,
You
Spider-Man
has
even see
got
Captain America.
free
He's like looking
strength.
at him.
Like, wow, kid.
He's comfortable with leaving him there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope so.
Where are you
'cause, like,
from?
Cap had to know how strong it was, because otherwise that's just teenager death. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot on Cap recognizing he's comfortable leaving him there and like continuing on with the fight.
Where are you from, kid? Queens, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Which also in the very end portion is a cool thing that's alluded to.
Where'd
Who
you
hit
get-
you? Oh, his name's Steve.
From Brooklyn.
Yeah, he's from Brooklyn.
Oh. Oh, you should have seen his friend. He was really big.
Yeah. God, this movie was so well written and so fitting of all the characters.
This is also
Absolutely.
where you see, towards the end of the fight, when they're getting the escape, where you see the switch of team. You see Black Widow she's playing both sides.
Yes.
Because she has to, she
has to
realizes
one
what's
final
happening,
time. Right.
and she realizes she's got to help them get out. So she uses her device to stop Black Panther.
That's the most useful I've seen the Widow sting be, because it's been pretty useless the other movies.
Yeah, hasn't really been utilized at all.
It's
well.
good for like people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not good for.
Yeah, you're talking about super soldiers,
You're talking,
and you're shocking them a little bit. Like they tried shocking Steve Rogers in an elevator with 10 guys,
Right.
and they were sticking with
pistol.
cattle prods and trying to beat him, and he walked out the only man on his feet.
Dude, and they were trying to lock him up with the magnets too. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like clearly the super soldier serum works.
I do
Yeah.
not want to get past the airport scene and miss anything, because there was so many
yeah,
freaking when he's Giant Man, I think he like kicks a bus over at Black Panther, and then Vision comes down and it hits Vision and splits.
yes,
And when he first sees Black Panther, I don't know what he says to Black Panther, but Black Panther's looking up at him. He like kicks at him, and that's the only time I've seen Black Panther be like,
What about what?
Shit.
What about somebody just went right through me?
Yeah.
oh yeah,
He's like freaked out. Vision, like,
Well, you see,
how
first,
creepy is that in real life? Though?
first,
Like, it's
first
like
Vision
going-
goes like turns into like a little cannonball, goes boom, and like knocks him off
Yeah.
balance, and then goes through him and tries to close that thing to keep Cap and Bucky from getting out of there.
yeah. He cuts down the what is it? The
watch
traffic,
tower.
the controller
Yeah.
thing, and
Right.
the air traffic controller tower, and knocks that down in front of the doorway.
Spider-Man has lines to Falcon about the functionality of his wings and stuff. And
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
know
know
the
if
if
you've ever
carbon
been in
fiber.
a
That's
fight
really
before.
impressive.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he's like, "Is that coming out of you?" Then he's talking about the web, and
Yes.
then God, he's so quippy,
Yeah.
and it's so well written. Because there's been some times where there's been some Spider-Man lines where I'm like, yeah, but everything that came out of him was hilarious. I was laughing that entire scene.
It was
Ant-Man
really well
and Spider-Man were flawless comic relief.
And Black Panther had some dry humor. You know, the I don't care thing made me laugh.
Yeah, I laughed about that too. But I think I'm already in a pretty good mood about the Ant-Man. And, you know, it was nice.
I wish that they didn't have the Lego set and the pop figures that came out like 3 months ago. And it's like Giant Man. I was like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're waiting for it to
there's
happen.
a lot of marketing that comes along with these. You can't like get everything
You
perfect.
can't hide everything
you can't,
forever.
especially in the technology age.
That
So-
and how many people didn't see that stuff and are still going to be shocked to see the movie. If you're looking at it as
Right.
it's still
General
it's still
public.
a cool thing, and they utilized him. They showed his other side of his power.
right.
Did you
It's
know
not
that
just
they were
the
going to get
big
him in this, or what about Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I knew it was going to be this because it was the
Okay.
Civil War Lego set.
Oh, okay,
It
it
was
was
like,
Civil War.
yeah.
Lego said, how many adults buy Legos?
um,
I mean, I know a lot.
Well, I have 3 kids. I have an excuse.
Huh?
I have 3 kids.
Legos are awesome.
He
I
already
know,
has- he already has
I
a
know a
set.
lot of people that buy Legos.
um,
I know a guy that buys $200 sets for just one piece.
and we know a guy with 20
Okay.
Star Wars tattoos.
Hmm?
What?
Yeah, so
I
I know a guy that does Civil War podcast.
know a couple.
So anyway,
The fight scene as a whole worked incredibly well. Was longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it
It
was like a
also
good
wasn't as
17
hokey.
minutes.
There's a moment when they're like sprinting, like in one of the trailers where they're sprinting out into the open
It looked
at
bad.
each other. It looked terrible. I was like, if this is what happens in the movie, this is gonna look super hokey.
We both
oh,
discussed.
you're talking about like this poster scene when they're coming after each other and it's
Yeah,
just like they're all gonna meet punches or something
Yeah,
like that.
it looked, but it's just them sprinting out into 2 separate lineup groups. Like this is not Civil War, like literally
It's like
Civil
Civil
War
Dispute.
era where they just line up and shoot across the field. Like that's not the way the real world works. And when the fight actually went down, some of them were out there. Spider-Man had to go up and try and capture Bucky and Falcon, who were in the terminal running down. Like, people weren't all just lined up the way it looked like in the picture it was going to be.
We
They were
both
different
talked
places.
about.
But it's not necessarily. I actually do when you think about like Civil War, and not so much like our actual Civil War era, but when you think back to like Revolutionary War, which was technically a civil war with the British colonies because it was independence. We're all British, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
I guess, I mean, not really, but still.
At the point, it was we
Yeah.
were battling within ourselves,
Right.
to take our own freedom,
So-
which is the same thing.
A lot of like the war tactics for then, and I don't know if it was more like a French or a British tactic or something like that, but you lined up your troops,
Right.
and then you had the space in between, and then you fought,
Yep.
right? So there was the front lines meeting each other, and they came across it. Then I believe, I don't know when it was, but we just started hiding people, you know, and thinking like, why line up and like just sign up to just be killed one person after another, and then everyone.
I don't know why that was ever a thought process.
So then we start like hiding or whatever. But when you see like them coming together, you could even see it in like X-Men Origins when they're showing all the battles that Wolverine and Sabretooth have gone through.
Right.
You know, it's they're all coming,
Just running into.
they meet up. So when it shows this, it's I kind of get like the symbolism behind it, but at the same time,
It was a splash page, like from a comic. Like that's how a comic panel would be set up.
Right.
It was like, here's the lines.
But at the same time, yeah, they don't do that, which is awesome.
yes,
It's
I was
actually
really-
a full
it-
all over the place battle.
I'm right with you as far as the symbolism and the visual for the trailer and for the posters.
Right.
For the movie, I thought it would be really hokey, and I'm glad it didn't pan out
Oh, yeah,
exactly
for
like
sure,
that.
for sure.
Just because functionally, that's not how stuff goes down. This
Right.
isn't the Sharks versus the Jets, West Side Story, where they line up and
Right.
guys are snapping and dancing in order to fight.
I don't know. Spider-Man might have been there. You know.
That's a good point.
I was like, no, he wouldn't. Oh, that's right.
Oh, dear goodness. Spider-Man 3,
what I
thank
was
you.
trying to say is, me and Tyler talked about this in some of the earlier podcasts, but when we saw the first Civil War trailer, I think we both were grossly underwhelmed.
I was telling everybody before, like, as soon as Civil War was announced, and I'm like, oh, they're filming it. Yes. I'm like, dude, this is gonna be better than both Avengers put together. Like, and then after I
Well?
saw Age of Ultron, I thought, well, that's not gonna be that hard. So, like, I mean, I like Age of Ultron. I'm just saying,
I like Age of Ultron in comparison, though.
yeah.
When you're putting
Pales.
when you're trying to do apples to apples, this is above.
Oh yeah.
Clearly.
For sure.
Um,
So, but then that first trailer came out, and I was like, dude, where is everybody? Is this just Captain America and Iron Man? And I forget a whole lot of what's happening in the Civil War thing, but it looked totally bland to me, and it looked uneventful, like it was just Captain America.
the
and Iron Man,
motivation
maybe.
seemed very weak.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this happening?
And I was immediately underwhelmed. I was like, I don't really want to go see this movie now. You know, I was offended.
Yeah.
And then the Underoos.
Yeah. And then the
Trailer,
second trailer came
yeah.
out, and I was like, and we're back.
yeah, the second they showed the tiny bit of Black Panther and Spider-Man, it was like, okay,
That shot
Like
of Black
this guy-
Panther turning to the helicopter and all the bullets going ting, 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 ting off him, I was like,
yes.
get it.
So where do we go after the airport scene?
So while War Machine and Iron Man are chasing after Cap and the Quinjet,
And
Right.
Vision shoots him. Which
I stopped breathing when Rhodey was falling. I held my breath.
it was and that's one of those moments that there's been posters. It was in the other trailers where Iron Man's in the hole with Rhodey. I mean, he rips the mask off and he's standing over him like, "What did you do?"
You know something's gonna happen.
And your heart stops for Rhodey because he's falling, no parachute, no nothing. His system's down. Vision hit him right in the power source, and
Convenient.
he's toast. He's going down like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And the suit's for everything the suit is built to do and withstand and to save the life. All those operating systems were
Right.
done because the power source was killed. And so he's just falling to his death. And so I'm with you. Like when he's falling, and he's like, I'm falling blind here. And everyone's diving to try and get to him.
Falcon turns around and
Everybody. And then he just pile drives the ground. Hard.
I don't think there's any music right there. I think it just
No,
goes
it
silence.
goes dead silent.
It's
Dead
just- it's
silent.
just-
And
'cause
you
it's
see
like-
Iron Man dives in, rips off his mask, and he's looking at him. He's like, almost like he's feeling like initial anger, like what, like I can't believe this happened. But then he's mad, like Cap, see what you're doing. Like it almost reinforces his Cap, you're wrong. mentality. Like,
Yeah.
he feels even more conviction that his stance was right at that point. Almost like it really drove it home. And then Falcon says, "I'm sorry," and he just shoots him, knocks him down.
I also feel like there was more of a realization of how real it was to Captain America as well. He's like, this guy's serious about this. I didn't think that people were willing to die over this, but here's one of my fallen friends, you know, and then who
War
brought him
Machine's a
down?
military guy too.
Another one of my friends.
War Machine's another soldier.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's that scene, that moment.
Added gravitas to.
Oh, huge. I mean, it really sucks you in. It's one of those things about this movie that the emotional wrap up and it keeps you tied in and really moving with it. It did incredibly well. Not just the beginning, not just at the end. It's throughout the whole thing. There are moments constantly where you feel like you're really getting tied in with these characters and you feel for them. And because every one of these people in the other movies is one of your teammates. They're your friend. And when they get
Absolutely.
hurt, you're like, hey, Rhodey helped save Iron Man in Iron Man 2. You know, when he's going against Whiplash and he made all those other robots,
Right.
and Iron Man's surrounded, Rhodey dove in the War Machine suit and starts helping.
Right.
He's been there since basically the beginning.
War Machine helped save the president in Iron Man 3, the movie.
Well, that's the one highlight.
And then, like you said, Falcon goes back. He's like, "Oh shit, it's real. He's gonna die."
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to kill anybody. They
No.
wanted to bring them in. That's it. We need to end this war.
We're trying to escape. You're trying to capture us. But we want everyone's got to survive this.
Yes.
Other than Black Panther and Bucky.
Yeah.
Black Panther's the only one who's still in it for, I'm going to kill that
Dude,
man.
his
Yeah.
hand was like that close to Bucky's throat, and the
Yeah.
Scarlet's like, "Urgh," and Scarlet like stopped
yeah.
it and tossed him.
Well, and
He gets a good uppercut on him though. Bucky
yeah.
gets a good uppercut on him.
yeah. No, they have a good fight. Bucky's impressive, but a lot of it's all weighted behind that one metal arm with a giant metal bicep for some reason.
He's,
gets to make it
he's
look
Still
realistic.
pretty.
No,
fit.
yeah, but the whole arm is robotic.
Oh yeah.
he's got a lot of power in that, but at the same time, he is also a super soldier.
That's
Right.
true. Yeah, it's not just.
It
his
might be a
arm.
weight.
He's
If it was like a thin little arm, then he'd be like,
It's
that's true,
his
Val.
shield.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
Essentially.
true.
It is.
It is true.
It
It's
is
the same
his-
as Cap.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's got the same
I
thing.
wonder if that's made out of vibranium because they've never addressed it in the movie.
I operate under the assumption that it is made out of.
I also
Only
wonder that
because of
assumption.
its durability. It can't be broken. The only thing that really have done damage to it is Cap's shield can do damage to it. Obviously, Black Panther gets his claws into it for a moment, starts pulling at it.
Yeah.
Iron Man's core.
Iron Man's core clearly does some damage to it.
Okay,
They don't
I'm
know
gonna
that.
say though that would make it not vibranium. If Iron Man's core blows it off, it's not vibranium because Cap's shield has no problem deflecting.
Deflecting a shot. There's a big difference between deflecting a shot. He attempts to grab the power source, which is he created. If you go back to Iron Man 2, he creates a brand new element in order to make that thing. That power source in his chest and in the suits is enough. It's a nuclear reactor basically.
Okay.
I mean, it can do the damage. It shoots off blasters or blasts, but it's the arc reactor.
Right.
It's got enough juice, and he grabbed the whole thing.
So
Skipping forward, clearly do
well,
a later part in the movie.
that's
but-
okay. We're getting there though. So
Yeah.
I think we're getting to the climax
Yeah.
of the film. They're making
Now-
their way to Siberia.
Yes, and unfortunately, so they're on their way to Siberia. All the good guys on the team have been arrested. And Tony, unfortunately, finds out on his way to go talk to General Ross that Bucky wasn't at fault. That the other guy got found. And so we've kind of got two scenes happening at the same time with Bucky and Steve going to Siberia to get to the spot.
Get to
and,
Zemo.
to get to Zemo, and you find out that Black Panther's following them.
Which
Yeah,
I didn't expect for some reason.
Yeah.
When the Avengers are in the jail cells, and Hawkeye, goes off on Tony Stark, and he's, that has an effect. I forget exactly what he says, but
Something
he
like
says,
always
he says
knows.
a lot.
He's
you
the
know?
futurist that always knows
Yeah.
better than we do.
He says a lot, and it's very sarcastic, and it's very like a "fuck you" kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But then you got it pans over to Scott Lang, and he's like, my father told me to never trust a
Pym.
Stark.
He said Pym.
Huh?
Pym said never to trust a Stark.
Oh, and then he goes, He goes, "Who are you?" Come on, man.
Yeah.
That was the giant
Don't
monster at the fight.
The only person he had and he was inside his suit. The only person he had like a decent conversation with was Falcon, who has a giant black eye, if I remember.
Yes. But he also has to kill to get Falcon's trust. He kills obviously he's still got his watch on, which can do everything. It doesn't matter what in the world you need done.
It's
Tony
it's the utility belt.
It's literally the Batcave. Apparently you need a particle separator. Guess what Batman's got in his cave? A particle separator.
Yep.
Why? Because why wouldn't he have one?
Because he's Batman.
Like,
because he's
apparently
Iron Man.
his cave is endless. But this is one of those things where it's like, oh, I can shut this down. And Tony Stark's technology, again, bails him out. He gets out of or he gets that shut down. And then Falcon lets him know what's happening. And for some reason, they let Tony back out. I thought they were going to lock him in. And he was going to be in that little thing by himself, too. But also cool, he flies out. And he's in his chair, and he just sits back, and it swallows him.
No,
swallows him.
Yeah, he puts his finger
Yeah.
and then it's all there, and then he just flies out.
Just when you think they can't come up with more clever ideas on how to get him into a suit, his technology, again, shows that it can be anywhere, and it just...
Okay.
It's so crazy, even with how advanced his technology is in the first one... And while he's trying to figure out the Iron Man suit, he's trying to get it to like assemble and work even. And then now that it works, he just comes up with a way. Oh, it could fly by itself. Oh, it could assemble on me this way. Oh, I could do this and that and all the other things.
Well, it's like in the first Avengers movie when he puts the bracelets on the rings and he jumps out of the building and it flies in after him and
catches him and wraps
but
around.
When you see him building his first suit in the first Iron Man, you know how much time he puts into this.
Oh yeah.
You get to see Tony Stark's process in coming up with these developments.
Now it's just like, hey, look, new thing.
but you know how much time he put into that.
Right.
Oh
you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I'm right there with you.
It's not just something that's just
but
like, here, look at this new technology I have. It's like he's got this big long process.
Yeah, getting in and out of his suit in the first one, like he lands and then he's got machines ripping the pieces off of him, trying to get him out of it, because it is such an ordeal to get in and out of. And by like Iron Man 2, he's got the suitcase that he just rips open and it pops.
I love that so much. Boom, chest, and then
it wraps around. Yeah. He's found more clever and more clever ways to make that, and that's one of those things about the movie. Is like, what's he gonna do? Kind of like in the trailer when you saw the glove that he pulls over. Okay, he's got the Iron Man blaster built into his watch.
If he can push a button and make the whole suit come on, can he not just pull a freaking suit out of his watch? Like, where's the limit on this?
It has to be contained somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you can't
can only
just
get
have,
so big.
like, it's not like a dino cap. You know, he's got a...
He just Power Rangers it, summons it from the...
No, Dino Cap is Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
The Capsule Corp.
Oh, I got you.
You know,
Got you.
It's but yeah, it's, so in the helicopter, it's when he sticks his finger in there, it's coming from a source. You know, it's got like a ground.
Yeah,
makes sense. And then he takes off and he blows off Ross and lies to him.
Yes.
And so you know that he's still looking out for Cap.
Yes.
Despite everything that's happening, they just had a big old fight.
Well,
Rhodey went down.
He realizes that he's wrong about that Bucky wasn't one who did that.
When he found out that they found like basically Bucky mask.
Yeah.
Essentially, he's like, what does he say? He's like, shit or I don't know, something like that.
Essentially, and it goes after him.
But then just post that, I mean, everybody shows up at the place, and you walk in, you're assuming that Zemo's opening up all the super soldiers. He goes in. There's all the super soldiers, which we kind of breezed past.
And I was thinking, how do they hide this fight from the trailers? It's like, are they going to take on all these super soldiers? Crazy.
He capped every one of them.
Yep.
Did not expect that whatsoever.
Nope.
No, the whole point was to get those three to kill each other. So they come in, and it's intense.
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of cool that like he didn't have the agenda to like bring these. Like, what he says is,
he had an army at his feet.
Did you really think that I wanted more of you? Yeah. But it's crazy that they like send the whole it's almost a red herring.
Oh,
you know, you feel like that's how it all culminates at the end, but then it's not. it was intentionally trying to pin them against each other.
And we get to find out why is that date so important.
Yes,
Right.
and we also find out
Well,
that
you
the
think
whole
that the date is
the
there.
whole thing with Zemo is trying to pull everyone. Like, it wasn't about this, it wasn't about that. It was trying to get all of you here for one moment to see this, and then when they start the video, and then you get to see, oh man, you get to see what happens with the car crash. That was the foreshadowing, which is so damn good in this movie, so good. The foreshadowing in this movie might be some of the best that you'll ever see in a movie, because the first scene, it's rehashed a couple times, and then and they talk about this moment, and the guy is obsessed with this moment for so long, and you finally get to the point, you find out what happens, and it's who's in the car.
Right.
And you find out, and Tony's watching it, and he almost like he recognizes the car immediately.
He says, I know the street.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I know the street. And he sees it, sees what happens, and he sees Bucky coming in, and instantaneously you get the feeling he knows.
Yeah.
And the fact that Bucky punches his dad in the face to death.
Well, I'll tell you where the tear came in. When he grabs Howard out, drags him to the ground, and he goes, Sergeant Barnes. And I was like,
Oh, yes,
I forgot that they knew each other.
yeah,
Right.
because so many levels. It's
And then
really,
and then just like doesn't choke him, doesn't crack his neck, punches him in the face to death.
yeah,
Yeah.
with the left metal arm that can crush anything.
And then
And
he
then
goes.
With his real, he goes around the car, and with his human hand, chokes the life
Oh, yeah.
out of Tony's
And it
mother. Just it's gut wrenching, and you can see they keep
No
cutting back to
witnesses.
Tony, and you see it just pouring out of him. Like, you can see him just like he's finally come to know.
To be fair, though, like how much is that gonna like resonate in your brain? You're not gonna register all of that. That like, Manchurian Candidate, I just did that, but I just witnessed you murder my parents.
it's all done
Right,
at that
yeah.
point.
It's just
and-
At this point, I don't care if you were in control of your mind or not. You physically, there's something about, people who talk about killers or people who murder people. There's something about choking someone to death.
right.
It's a highly intimate way to murder someone, and because you feel the life leave them, and it's
pretty bad
critical.
too.
No, that's true. Punching him in the face, especially because he knew him.
They didn't die on impact of the car crash. That would have been one thing.
No.
But he
He
dragged
could have
him.
shot them. Too.
Yeah, it would have been far
could
less
have just
painful,
shot them.
but he did it
With
in
his
a
hands.
physical, with his hands.
Brutal.
And he killed her, reached in, choked her out, and then goes and steals the stuff. But at that point, it didn't matter what it was for or what was happening. The fact that he physically did that to Tony's mother, and then you see Cap like, it wasn't him. Calm down. And then he's like, "Did you know?"
Yeah, he has a moment of sanity where Iron Man he's barely holding on to his sanity. He's like, "Did you know?" And when he tries to explain it away,
So my
He's
question
like,
to
don't lie
that
to me.
is,
Did you know?
so my question to that is, how did he know? How did Cap know? Because Cap was frozen. How did he find out?
I know.
How?
He was told in Winter Soldier. Zola told him, basically. It was in the newspaper flashings. They were talking about Winter Soldier, and they said, deceased, and it showed Howard Stark, and there was like an X through his face. It's like Winter Soldier took him out.
Okay, you're right. Sorry.
That's why everybody
was.
was shocked by that moment, and I was like, I knew this already. I didn't know how, but I knew that
Yeah.
Winter Soldier
I
took
think
him
the
out.
how. Well, the fact that he did it, and then Tony assumed that his parents died in a car crash, and that was it.
Well-
he had no idea that they were murdered at the car crash scene.
I guess he couldn't have shot them though, because maybe it looked more like
It would have raised
It would have
questions.
been
like
yeah.
they died in a car crash.
Yeah,
And the
well,
technology was probably too old back then to trace, like, you know.
No, you'll be able to tell a murder through choking or through like
In
punching to death.
91? Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Oh,
Yeah.
that
They've
was
had
severe
fingerprints
marking.
since like the 30s or something.
except for a
So-
guy who's been dead for 50 years.
yes.
Because Bucky went missing. in
Right, but you would be able
1945.
to tell forced trauma on a neck.
Well, I like that
This is
he
like
dragged
but,
Howard out, killed him, and then put him back in the car.
But when you see crashed car, two bodies, you just assume car crash.
Well, yeah,
It's
and even
They didn't look
1991,
into it.
whoever came to the crime or the scene was probably like, okay, they died in the car accident. That's it. And the trauma may have been to something else, or who knows?
Well, look at like Kurt Cobain's death. There's a lot of
it could have been a
speculation
seatbelt.
around that. You know what I'm
Seatbelt.
saying?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people feel like there was a lot of stuff overlooked, and they just quickly ruled it as a suicide. So it's not uncommon for something to be,
That was 94.
Yeah, that was 94. So it was like right around the time. exactly.
So either way, that moment builds in, and then that sets the stage for that final fight sequence, which was spectacular. Going up, trying to escape.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Them going up, trying to escape out of the hatch when they open it up, and everyone's climbing up the different levels, and Cap keeps trying to drag Tony back down.
Starts taking down his boosters.
Oh yeah, taking the booster out with the shield. As they're going up layer to layer, even grabs I think ties something to him or grabs something to him.
He
and
pulls a
tries
little
to
thing,
drag him
like
out
a
of
little bat grapple out of his utility belt.
Yes.
Like, where's that been ever?
When have you used that?
Well, think about it. He has utility little belt.
Yeah, that's
things,
what I'm
but
saying.
He's like, never
when has he
used
used
them.
it? Yeah, it's always.
Well, I'll just jump. like
Yeah.
like I could use the grapple. I could jump that.
Yeah.
I'll just jump.
It's like when he jumps out of the elevator in Winter Soldier.
Balls
Yeah,
of a little
he's
shield.
just like eyeballing it. It's like, okay, I guess that's it.
There you go. This fight.
Yeah, awesome. And really, the fight in the silo as they're going up
Yeah.
is pretty good. Up until even Iron Man can't. His locking system is out, so he can't shoot it. He's like, I'm going to eyeball it,
Yeah.
and takes
Yeah.
out the cap, and it brings everything back down, and they end up all the way at the bottom. And the fall for Iron Man and Cap is pretty bad, all the way down to the bottom. And then Bucky's already down there too. But once it gets down in that bottom level and it comes hand-to-hand combat, them versus the suit, just the beatdown going on, and it's incredibly intense. And every punch you're just like you're gripping your seat, like holy crap.
Totally.
And to the point where Cap's got knocked down. Bucky's just going to town on Iron Man, and starts to grab the core. That moment when he's grabbing the core, you're like, okay, like something's going to happen here, because if you're putting your hand into a reactor, that's not going to bode well for your hand.
Right.
And the fact that it blows him backward, and then he lays there, and you can see his arm is just severed
Gone.
clean.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, okay, like that. You didn't even see the remnant of his arm. It's
Right.
just gone. Like it
Yeah.
melted to here.
Yeah.
History. And then he's out of it, and then it gets down to just Cap versus. But before that, when it's the back and forth of the three of them that's in the trailer, that looked just like in the trailer. Like that looks pretty cool. I wonder how it's gonna play out in the movie. That sequence of them going back and forth, just beaten into.
Because it's Bucky getting the shield back to Cap first, because he got separated from it.
Yes.
Because Cap threw it at Iron Man. Iron Man blasted it away. I was like, why hasn't anyone done that before? Intercept the shield.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't obey the laws of physics.
Yeah.
So,
Spider-Man said that. He's like, well, that just doesn't obey a lot of physics at all.
but that sequence when they're back and forth, just going at it, and when it gets down to just after Bucky's arm is blown off, and it's just Cap v Iron Man, it's intense, and you get the flashback to the very first one when Steve is getting beat down, and he's the scrawny kid, and I can do this all day, and he pulls that same line. It kind of brings it full circle with the beginning, the little scrappy kid in the alley.
He doesn't like bullies.
Doesn't like bullies, and he's coming in, and he's like, listen. And you get the emotional moment. The one thing that I had a critique about the trailers is I wish they hadn't ruined. I talked to you about this when I first showed up.
Right.
I wish they hadn't done the "he's my friend," and then Iron Man says, "So was I." If they hadn't done that, that moment would have been so much better. But I knew it was coming, and so it felt
That's all the first trailer had was that.
I know, but that moment was it was good in the movie.
Yeah.
It was great.
If you hadn't seen it in the trailers, like
That'd have been a
No,
much
I'm
more
agreeing with
emotional,
you guys.
much
I'm
more
just saying, like,
emotional, right.
they use that as the first trailer punch. Like, the first trailer was nothing to
Nothing
me,
except
and then
for that.
And it was like,
But
oh.
even that,
understandably,
that moment
but
in the
that is
trailer
something
was good.
that is something that could have been
I agree.
so powerful.
Totally,
like one of the
totally
most
agree.
powerful points of the film.
Absolutely, it was really good.
There's a lot you could have put in the trailers that wasn't that.
I
all I'm saying.
thoroughly enjoyed it. In that moment, really, it was like, okay, well, now we're down to the final part, and when Cap takes him down, takes the
Rages on him,
shield, and just goes nuts, breaks the mask off, breaks his helmet
Yeah.
off with the shield, and then just keeps pounding the chest until he cracks the reactor with the shield. Like that, and then you see them both just finally collapse. Like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
Well, you think that he's gonna kill Iron Man? Like Iron Man,
I thought he was going to the face.
Yeah, sees is like he's willing to kill me over this. You know, he's like Cap is gonna kill me, right?
Absolutely.
And then you see all that emotion in Iron Man's like it was just like, oh,
I messed up.
There it is. You know, there it is. And then when he's left there, just like, I don't know if you noticed, but like by the position he was laying and stuff like that, he looked a little like his pride was gone, and he's feeling like pathetic.
Yeah.
Like
Well, his suit
there,
doesn't work
pathetically.
anymore. He's laying around in probably a 200-pound suit that doesn't function to help him. Like, hey, hydraulics are out.
Right.
Yeah,
Probably
moving
gets
your
really
arms is
heavy.
really hard.
What I was gonna say is, I didn't even think about the correlation, but when you said when he's looking up, he's like, "This is the moment."
I felt like he might kill him there.
Age of Ultron, when they're at the
I did too.
at the Barnhouse thing with Hawkeye, and Cap and Tony are talking. He's like, I don't trust somebody with a dark side. And Cap says, maybe you just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing that far in advance.
Yeah, but he didn't have the dark side. But he knew he had to stop Iron Man. The only way to stop him was to shut down the suit. So the fact that he used the shield to bust it, and then he goes to take off, and he's like, "That doesn't belong to you," and Cap leaves it.
Yeah.
It's like,
But the suit has been effectively shut down, and then he goes for another one, and this is the kill shot.
Yeah.
And he's gonna, and then, but
he does pile drive it in, because then
So
when
a
he
lot of
sits
people
back,
thought-
it's still the shield's just stuck out of his chest. He's laying there, and when he got slammed to the ground, you almost think he got neck damage because his head hits that little rail piece right behind him, and then his helmet busts off, and so his head's just sitting there on a platter, like ready to just get tanked.
Yeah.
And that moment, I felt like, man, like Cap's lost it.
so a lot of people think Robert Downey Jr. is gonna be in Spider-Man: Homecoming, so clearly he doesn't die. And I'm like, well, it could. They didn't show how Spider-Man got his suit. There could be flashbacks of his suit being built or something like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that could happen. There are a lot of things that could still happen with the Robert Downey Jr.
If they don't have the
being like
cojones to kill off Rhodes, they're not going to kill off Iron Man.
I feel like a lot of filmmakers intentionally tease a death to hit harder with another one. It's
sure.
It's very effective in shows like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead.
You think this guy's gonna die, and it's not him; it's somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm with you. It was that climax pinnacle moment of the movie was really, really, really well done.
And I
again, the characters on another level.
I actually thought that it very well could be Iron Man because they alluded to War Machine's death in the trailers.
Right.
I felt like it was an intentionally misleading situation.
A red herring.
To throw you off. Yes, a red herring. But how perfect was that red herring, really? The mutants or the other Winter Soldiers?
Oh,
Didn't see
that
coming. That was crazy.
I was totally ready for
because
a super battle right
I'm
there.
thinking the whole 1991 thing. The reason he's obsessed with it, the reason why, is to get to these soldiers and activate them.
Yeah.
Right. But it wasn't. It was the Stark parents.
Yeah.
Then on top of the foreshadowing again.
Right.
He's listening to the voicemail of his wife and kids, and then you find out that he's lost them all, and he keeps listening to the voicemail because that's all he has left of his family. That's gut wrenching.
Voicemail.
It's
It's something that, like, have you ever thought that before? Like, you get a voicemail from someone and it's kind of dark to think of, but it's like, what if this is the last voice that I hear of them, and then you don't delete it? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
no, and that's, he talks about the things that he had to go through, and then you get to see the human side of T'Challa too.
Right.
Who didn't go in, didn't go to try and help fight. He stayed out there, and then
he figured out.
And then, even though he knows that Zemo is the one who caused his father's death, and he's like, I have come to terms with this, but then he stops him from trying to kill himself. He's like, the world isn't done with you yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
the living is finished.
Yeah.
Vengeance has consumed you.
Yeah. But the living aren't done with you, man.
Yeah.
With that moment of like, no, you will serve justice for this. You're not just going to die in Siberia and with no worry about the recourse for your actions.
Right.
You're dead. And then he ends up in the same exact machine that in jail cell that Bucky was in. Yeah.
Well, what I think is it was Black Panther's kind of FU to him. He's like, oh no, you want to die? Well, I'm taking that from you. Like, I'm not giving you the easy way out. I'm not giving you the right. It's
Absolutely.
like, because if you kill yourself, your whole plan has come to fruition. You've done everything you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But we're not done with you.
I like that Black Panther stepped in, stopped him, and didn't let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
It made a lot of sense. It worked, and you got to see
even
someone. Yeah, even the better character development out of again, they do
Zemo
it
can
so
come
well. Zemo could come back, but then you also got to see T'Challa, him come to shape, and yet that shows his ability to not just be a reactive person, but be thoughtful about what he's doing. And that's something a leader would do, is set aside his personal feeling and
His
do the right
vendetta.
thing. Yeah, he wasn't allowing vengeance to control his life. He was about doing the right thing, and he stopped him. And I thought,
Honor.
again, the development of Black Panther in this movie, though quick, because he was in it for, he was just thrust in. You see a lot of his action, not as much of his character development, but the character development you got was spot on. You really feel like at the end of that, you get him. And then, again, in the mid credit
end credit, yeah.
Or is the end credit on that one?
No,
that's mid
Spider-Man is the end credit.
Yeah.
This is the
mid credit.
Yeah.
You see again, you get to see a little bit more of that built on.
And
but
Wakanda.
the giant
the
panther rock.
Yeah,
Man,
I hope that's his theme song. Like, you know how the music was kicking in when it went over the giant, like, and it showed the panther?
Yes.
I hope that's his song. Like, that's his theme.
It was. Can I also say that like all the headings in this movie had like that, like the backdrop of the city with the big bold white print. It felt like a 1970s spy movie.
Totally.
Yeah, I was like, man, this has got that cool retro feel. Everything's like laid out, giant bold print of the city, and then moves on, and it felt like that.
I was joking with one of my friends sitting right next to me, like, whenever it would do that, I'm like, oh, apparently we're in Queens. Apparently we're in
Vienna.
Yeah.
Right. It was cool though, but I feel like the best part of it was when it goes Queens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I kept
Like-
hearing about that with some of the people doing reviews. They're like, there's a part in this movie where it acknowledges that it's in Queens, and the audience clapped. I'm like, what? And then I saw the movie, and everyone's like, oh! I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
I got it.
Knowing the origins of the characters and where
Right.
they're from, where they reside, is kind of like the fact again the Steve Rogers being a Brooklyn kid. They're both from New York. The Brooklyn versus Queens thing. Even his aunt's like, "Did you get a couple good shots in, or something along those
I was
lines?"
like, I think I did.
Yeah. You should have seen his friend. He was huge. That line just again so
They got
subtle.
the spider
Yeah.
symbol.
Literally.
Oh, but then okay, so is that it for the real movie? Because I mean, at that point,
I mean, there's the apology letter, kind of apology letter to Tony, and he says, despite everything, call on me and I'm there, which I think was a little bit of a cop out. I was like, I think things should just kind of stay effed for a little bit.
yeah,
They are though. All
Well,
the
I know
other
they're
Avengers
effed.
are still
I-
imprisoned.
I know they're no, they're not.
Are they?
He busted him out at the end.
Did he?
Remember,
Yeah.
Cap showed up and there's Falcon.
Like it cuts best part, the foreshadowing again. Tony reading the letter gets the phone call from Ross and goes after Rogers has busted everybody out,
Oh, right.
saying we have an emergency, and he goes, "Oh, hold please," and puts him
Oh,
back
right.
on. He goes, "I'll put you. You should call me sometime. I'll put you on hold. I like watching the light blink." And then he does that at the end of the movie after he's got the letter from
Stark,
Cap.
no.
Yeah, but Cap busts into that prison
Right.
and
I
rescues
remember,
her.
I remember
But you
seeing
don't get to
this.
see anything. All you see is
You
just
just see
carnage,
his- yeah.
bodies lined out everywhere. They're all knocked out, everyone all over the
I
place.
think he walks up to Falcon's
He
cage.
walks up to Falcon,
Yeah, he walks
to bust
in
him out.
Falcon's cage.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand things are messed up, but like, for some reason, it felt cheapened by Steve's letter. Like, it didn't resonate with me. Like, I think it probably should have.
I don't
was
feel like I
liked it.
yeah, I
Well,
did
it's
too.
in his character, so I understand it.
Like
but
I
didn't
said, a
know
lot
it.
of this was more logic based. A lot of this was emotionally based. What do you do after you argue with a friend, especially if you don't want there to be like an absolute falling out? You apologize.
You reach out.
If you're a higher
Yeah, so-
person, which Cap is a better person.
No,
than
it's
everything.
not. Being the better person. It doesn't.
Well, I'm
it
not
doesn't
saying
mean, doesn't mean
I'm not
you're
saying
a
he's better
person.
than Iron Man. I'm saying he's a better person than I am. Like, I'm saying like Cap is like one of the best.
Okay,
men.
understandably, but Captain America's personality type, they both want to apologize to each other. They both still want to be friends. Captain America's personality type just allows him to be able to be the one that reaches out. Tony Stark's
Tony Stank.
Tony Stank.
I'm not letting
we
it
did
go.
forget about we did forget about Tony Stank, but
Stanley.
Yeah,
Fuck,
Rhodey getting to walk.
but
yeah.
Tony Stark's personality type doesn't allow him to do that. He's more prideful and more reserved and more self-preservation.
Well, even
So
earlier in
it's
the
like-
movie when he admits that he was wrong, like, what'd you say? What was that?
Yeah,
Like he has to swallow his pride and own
Right.
that. So you're
Yeah,
right. It's not
exactly.
really in his character.
it's
But I thought it was good too because it showed that Steve owned the fact that he knew.
right.
And he even said, he goes, I thought I was protecting you by not saying, but I was really protecting myself.
Right.
And he didn't want to have to be the one to break that kind of news to Tony
Yeah.
and tell him, but he was protecting his friend. He was protecting himself.
Right.
But he was just protecting a different friend. But I think owning that and that finished letter was a fine way to wrap it up. It, you know, a little cliche with the whole reading of a letter at the end of a movie, but
Okay.
this was incredibly good. And that mid-credit scene in Wakanda where Bucky even admits that I'm putting myself back under
Until we can figure out what to do with my mind.
so I can get it out of my head. Because in some iterations or some versions of this, Bucky takes on the mantle of Cap at some point.
I was
So-
almost hoping or thinking that was going to happen. Be the
Because
next
of in the Winter Soldier when he has his shield.
He picks up the shield several times. He does it in this movie too.
I think, well, and if they can fix his head and get him straightened back out, maybe that's one of those things. And plus, you also find out how advanced the technology in Wakanda is. They have the tech, they have the advancements, and they have the know-how and the means to repair him, to obviously put him in cryo sleep so that he can survive.
Yeah.
And this is also a way that they can continue Captain America without playing out Steve Rogers. So, I mean, well, once he is going, like, further, like, after Infinity War or something like that, maybe they just, like, you think that you have no more Captain America for, like, a few years, suddenly Bucky.
Well, and they talk about Marvel has Chris Evans signed on for, I think, 2, maybe 3 more movies, and they have Bucky.
6 or something.
Yeah, it's like 6 or 7
For 2028, clearly. Yeah,
He's signed for
yeah.
a long time.
I was
Come on.
out of.
If you don't think that's going to happen.
Oh yeah, totally. I just want to say really quick, as like part of like the wrapping up, as far as new characters are introduced, we got Spider-Man and Black Panther. We know they're both getting movies, one in 2018, one in 2017. What are you guys most looking forward to? Tough.
It's almost an impossible question.
What movie am I most looking forward
Black
to?
Panther and Spider-Man. Like now
I'm
we've
most looking forward to Spider-Man.
sure. And
Just because of this new Spider-Man, I know I've seen Spider-Man before.
You finally-
I know
this
I've seen
is
5
Spider-Man.
other Spider-Man movies, but this is Spider-Man,
Yeah.
man, and he's so incredible, and it's always exciting.
next year. No, don't have to wait that long.
I'm going to upset a lot of people with this and say that I'm really looking forward to this because I liked Andrew Garfield. I liked Tobey Maguire, kind of.
I like Tobey Maguire when it was just Tobey Maguire. When Tobey Maguire was the only Spider-Man, I loved those movies.
Yeah, the
I was
movies were fine.
upset with Spider-Man 3, but then Andrew Garfield came in and was like, this guy's much better.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield I thought did a different take on the character.
Sure.
But the original Spider-Man movies I was so on. I mean, they were good and I enjoyed them. I can watch them again. And maybe not Spider-Man 3, but 1 and 2 easily. Spider-Man 3, I love the character of Venom, and I thought they just pissed all over that.
Maybe we'll get.
Why would you make Eddie Brock like this, like weak little Eric Foreman? But
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But anyway,
But yeah, this new Spider-Man. I
You
think
haven't
would
heard
be
me say this before, but I've said it previously. Amazing Spider-Man 2 has the best portrayal of the comic book come to life, with Electro and all that sort of stuff. It really does a great job of exhibiting what Joel Schumacher failed in his Batman films.
Yes. Well,
Like a lot of them, most of them have gone for this realistic turn, like this realistic take. And Amazing Spider-Man did do that, but there's a lot of like a comic book feel to it, of a cartoon feel. It is so amazingly done.
I really like both the Andrew Garfield movies. I have them both on Blu-ray.
I was upset when I heard they were.
I
rebooting
was
it.
very disappointed when it wasn't going to get the third one. I'm like, great, what are they going to do? And then I immediately had the thought, like, crap, Sony's going to cling to this for another 5 years, make another crud movie, and we're going to start this over again.
Technically, they still have it.
That's true, but they've now shared with the Marvel Universe. And once Marvel gets its leeches into something, and clearly they know how to do it better than Sony has, it's kind of like if, heaven forbid, Marvel get back X-Men.
I hope not, though.
I want Marvel to get Fantastic Four back. I'm okay with them not
Sure.
having X-Men.
Okay,
Because mutants, we've talked about this. Mutants.
Kevin Feige will
ruin-
stop fighting them if they get Fantastic Four back.
Yeah.
They just need to reboot the X-Men franchise.
I agree.
With the thought of how well put together and webbed the Marvel Cinematic Universe is. So if they do their own thing with X-Men and then focus on continuity and do not let it go the way that it did.
My issue with that is it's who's doing it. Fox has proven time and time and time again they can't do that. Right. They can't get from part 1 to part 2 without ruining things. Like they turn people through too quick, and they don't have one person overseeing kind of the universe to make sure there's continuity and things like that.
Well, maybe they could kind of do what Sony and Universal are doing with the Hulk and Spider-Man. You know,
it's true. I really do like I liked Andrew Garfield. It was highly disappointing when they got rid of him. That was redeemed with Tom Holland in this movie.
So good.
And I really can't wait to see it. I just hope we don't get another drawn out origin movie. Right. Like, give us a little bit. Everyone at this point, they've seen a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man and his origin, and
Kevin Feige said they're not doing an origin movie.
Just give us a movie.
We got basically, I mean, they'll probably have to do some background stuff, but we basically got the beginning of Black Panther also. So neither of these movies need to be origin movies per se. And I think I'm very, very excited for Spider-Man. This is easily my favorite Spider-Man already.
But Black Panther is exciting as well.
The reason I'm a hair more excited for Black Panther is new. I just like Doctor Strange. I am so incredibly excited for Doctor Strange. I'm looking forward to characters that have never had an iteration on screen.
Yeah, to me, that's so weird to me. Like I'm always very excited for that, and I always am. But the stuff that I'm a fanboy about is the most exciting. Is what that you can't take like you can't take away that level of excitement.
I do love Spider-Man, but I'm just, like you said, 5 movies of Spider-Man, and so I know they're going to do a great job. So I'm super excited. But I guess I have an expectation with the Spider-Man movie that's going to be great, and I know
you don't know what you're going to what you're walking into.
Right, I'm excited for the unknown. I guess. Okay.
Look at Guardians of the Galaxy.
I had no idea what that was going to be.
Yeah,
and it was great.
Phenomenal. Doctor Strange looks great.
Yeah.
So you got a little taste of Black Panther in this, and like a nice big taste. So it looks like it's going to be a good movie.
I think this movie set up future Marvel things better than, honestly, both Avengers movies. It's set up the spin-offs better.
Man, you know what I wish they would do that it'll never happen? Sorry. But you know how DC actually has separate universes. It's got the Arrowverse, and then it's got its cinematic universe.
Sure. It's so they don't have to have their hands tied when making directorial decisions and things.
Right, but what I'm wondering is, I mean, they could continue the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. It's a separate universe. They could just make that one last one or something like that.
I'm okay with Tom.
It'll never happen.
I think maybe they'll take.
I want the Tom Holland one more. I'm just saying
they'll take the ideas they had for continuing these Amazing Spider-Man and apply it then to this new Tom Holland verse.
Maybe, but
something like I think they could do a Sinister Six.
It's just sad that you don't get a conclusion to that storyline. You know.
Yeah. I was disappointed because I wanted to see what was going to happen with the next one. Because they did a good job. Like at the end of that, with her dying and everything that happened to that character in the development. Like in the first movie, her dad dies. Second movie, she dies, and he's just been.
I was expecting them to kill her in the first one.
Yeah, but the fact that he had to deal with the fact that he was made responsible for her safety by her father, who died partially because of him. And then in the next one, he lets her, not intentionally, but she dies because of him. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a lot of weight on him. Well, he told her to
stay away, and then she follows him into, like, Electro.
We could very easily go into, like, a separate Spider-Man podcast.
We do kind of got to wrap this up.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up, and I think I didn't realize that I could probably talk about Civil War for 3 hours, because I still now am having more things come into my head, like Black Panther's bodyguard.
We've officially gone
stuff.
Longer than the movie was. So.
Well, pretty close to. Yeah,
well, the spoiler-free one.
Oh yeah, if you had the spoiler-free one, then yes, we have. So that's crazy. So hopefully you guys really enjoyed it. And just to reiterate what we said in the spoiler-free, we got 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. For me as well. And then Tyler, were you 8.5, 9? Did you decide?
8.5, 9.
8.5,
probably 9.
8.7, something like that.
Yeah, probably 9.
It was great. No matter where you want to put it on your scale of Marvel movies, top 3, you just might have to fudge them around a little bit and decide, where you want it to be. Great movie, great follow-up to Age of Ultron, great follow-up to Winter Soldier. The movie was awesome. I think the best superhero trilogy is the Captain America franchise.
I would agree with you.
I'm on board with that.
All right, so that's three-way agreement there. So no dispute here. So stay tuned for our next movie review, which will probably be X-Men Apocalypse.
Yes.
In a couple weeks here, and please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share our video around. And until next time, thank you, Scott, for joining us very much.
Thank you.
Tyler, always a pleasure. Thanks for hosting us, and may the film be with you.
And thank you all for watching.